Welcome back. It is an outstanding evening for college football. Capacity crowd of over 81,000 on hand tonight at Memorial Stadium. The third member of our broadcast team, a name familiar with those Nebraska fans, Kent Pavelka. And Kent, one of the keys, I think, for Nebraska, not only tonight but this year, force more turnovers.
Absolutely, Ron. The numbers have not been good in recent years. Huskers dead last in the Big 12 Conference over the last 5 years, minus 42. Last year, minus 11. Very un-Bo Pelini-like numbers, considering they were plus 23 when he was D coordinator here in 03. These numbers represent the obvious. Missed opportunities for the Huskers to score, additional opportunities for opponents to score, which is no big deal, really, if you're head and shoulders better than everybody you're playing. But when you're in tight-fit games like Nebraska has been and likely will be this year, it is a big deal. Still, they go with 9 wins going minus 11. If they can do a 180 on that, it could be huge. Key to it, get the ball, keep the ball, win games.
All right, Kent, we'll be checking back with you throughout the game. Florida Atlantic finished 7-6 last year, third in the Sun Belt Conference. They won the toss. They've elected to receive. As mentioned, a perfect night of football. 50% humidity. Temperature will probably be in the high 60s by the end of the game. Adi Kanalik with the kick. And as he did so many times last year, almost 40% of his kickoffs were touchback. Avani Roll decides to just put a knee down, and Florida Atlantic will begin on their own 20-yard line. Florida Atlantic offense, this is a tight end-focused offense when it comes to the pass game. Rusty Smith, third year as a full-time starter. Kelly, he's a prototypical passer. He's 6'5", but last year's numbers slipped from 2007.
And last year's numbers, I think, really had a lot to do with the fact that he got hurt early in the season. Actually, in the Texas opener, he dislocated his left shoulder. Wasn't the same until about mid-season, but rest assured, he's very good in the pocket at reading defenses. Very few mistakes from this young man.
Cortez Gent now wide to the right side for Florida Atlantic. And Smith will get it to Gent. Looks for the block, gets up to the 25-yard line. Pick up a 5. Anthony West trips him up. Let's take a look at the offensive line of Florida Atlantic. 3 seniors, but pressure's going to be on the first-year starter, Ryan Wisniewski. He's a former backup at guard. He's going to be looking at Ndamukong Suh all night. Wide receivers, running back. They lost their leading rusher to graduation. 2 more to injuries that opened the door for Alfred Morris. He started spring training as a fullback. On second down, Nebraska shows a blitz, busting through the line, and Ndamukong Suh. Speaking of the defense, Bo says they're nowhere where they want to be on defense. But you look at the line, the attention obviously goes to Suh, but keep an eye on Jared Crick. The coaches were just bubbling over of praise for Jared Crick yesterday. Linebackers, 3 new starters, got a lot of talent. Sean Fisher, he's going to be all over the field today, my friends. Secondary, solid group, 2 seniors, 2 juniors. Larry Asante led the seniors in tackles. Kelly, quickly, we saw the speed of Nebraska. That's what you thought would be a key.
Yeah, I think Florida Atlantic is going to have a tough time on the line of scrimmage with this potent defensive line for Nebraska.
On third down, Smith's pass, nowhere. Matt O'Hanlon of Nebraska was the closest defender. Jamari Grant, the intended receiver. And a nice defensive stand to start off the game by the Huskers. Yeah,
rest assured that Carl Pelini loves those 3 and outs to begin a season. Florida Atlantic runs a pro-style offense, a lot of 2-back. Very seldom do they go 3 wide, which Nebraska fans will be really not used to seeing with all the spread offense right now in vogue in the Big 12 Conference.
Keegan Peterson, a sophomore of Riverview, Florida. Averaged just over 38 yards a kick last year. And Niles Paul, he takes over for Nate Swift, returning punts this year. Nice high spiraling kick. Paul looks up. He's going to let it bounce. Outstanding field position for the Huskers. They'll mark it just at about midfield. This Nebraska offense finished 12th in the NCAA in total offense last season. It was a versatile offense, and the quarterback now is Zack Lee. He's thrown only 2 touchdown passes at Nebraska, but the junior from San Francisco, Kelly, you touched on it, he's got all the tools.
Yeah, he has a big-time arm, much better than Joe Ganz's arm, and actually has probably more speed. It's just a matter of his feel and instincts in the pocket. That's what we need to keep an eye on today.
And they're just going to hand it on the ground, keep it over the left side. Edward Bradwell with the stop on Roy Helu Jr. When you take a look at some of the numbers on Lee, 6'2", 210 pounds, spent some time at San Francisco City College. He's had an outstanding week of practice. In fact, Sean Watson telling us during the week he was 37 of 41.
Not a bad afternoon if he can duplicate that today. But the biggest, I think, coaching point that Sean Watson gave Zack Lee going into this game was trust yourself. Don't second guess what your eyes are seeing.
A little bobble, and he is going to be hit right at the 45-yard line, a loss of about 2 on the play. Let's take a look at the rest of the starters for Nebraska. On the left side of the line, it remains intact from 08. Senior center Jacob Hickman, he's a 3-year starter. He's the bell cow. And the running backs and wide receivers, a solid stable of wide receivers. At running back, Roy Helu, he led the team in rushing last year, and I don't think it's any secret he must stay healthy this year.
And already we see a 3rd and almost 10 yards, and this is exactly where Sean Watson wants to keep Zack Lee out of early. They want to let Zack Lee kind of get his feet on the ground and not have to make big plays early in this game.
And there's some jumping off sides. Bo Pelini says penalties are dumb. he cut right to the chase, and that was something that was a concern for this team last year.
Bo Pelini cut right to the chase?
Right to the chase. They were 11th in the Big 12 and 98th in the NCAA in penalties.
Prior to the stat, false start, offense, number 65.
He says the team talks about it all the time. He says it's just dumb football. Mike Smith is the culprit.
Mike Smith and Mike McNeil, the tight end, both of them move, but the dumbest penalty of all is the pre-snap penalties, where nothing happens and you make a penalty. I guarantee you that Coach Pelini will remind those two of that come film tomorrow.
Well, it's a 3rd down and 15. Ball's on the 40. We have played 3 minutes here in the opening quarter. A little fake to Helu. They give it to Helu, and he is going to be stacked up after maybe a gain of 3. Josh Savage, who's the most experienced defensive lineman for Florida Atlantic, comes up with a stop. This senior out of Naples, Florida. And so both teams, 1 possession, 1 punt. And that'll bring in the new punter for Nebraska, but a familiar name, Alex Henry. Punted 18 times last year. Averaged just over 35 yards a kick. Tavius Polo is back for the Owls. He's standing on his 10. Good snap. And Henry gets a dandy off. Polo takes a couple of steps up, and he gets hammered. Ricky Tenar's coming down on the coverage. He lowered Polo. We are scoreless in the first. 11:13 left to play in the opening quarter, along with Ken Pavelka and Kelly Stauffer. I'm Ron Poulin. Glad to have you with us tonight. And we have not really mentioned Howard Schnellenberger. You know, you talk about outstanding coaches in college football. He's the 3rd oldest behind Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden. Of course, he led Miami to the national title in '83. Sorry, Nebraska fans. He won 31-30. We will actually replay some of that bitter loss. Been on the sidelines of either college or NFL for better than 40 years. In fact, this is his 50th year of coaching. And I think he's more proud of the fact that he's celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary to his lovely wife, Beverly, more than 50 years of coaching. I think Beverly is a saint.
Yeah, no question about that. 50 years of coaching. But how long could we have stayed on the phone with that guy a couple days ago? I mean, you talk about the history of the game. He could have gone on forever, and I would have listened for as long as he wanted me to.
All 3 coaches, offense, defensive coordinator, and Coach Schnellenberger, were outstanding to us. Rusty Smith, a little play action. This is when he is dangerous. Biding his time, and does a smart thing and just throws it away. Pierre Allen is the one who is putting on the pressure.
And this is where Florida Atlantic, I think, will get into a little trouble against Nebraska, because a lot of times they go max protection. It's a play action, and then Rusty Smith is just going to continue to roll, but they literally have 2 pass patterns out in the route. They have a tight end that's going out, will come into the frame right about there, and then they had a deep pattern. A lot of times they sacrifice routes downfield for protections inside.
Now they only go with a single back. And it's Willie Rose, the fullback. He is going absolutely nowhere. And Ndamukong Suh, his second tackle of the night. You talk about the way they max protect. They will keep 8 guys sometimes in, but because of that protection, they only allowed 16 sacks last year.
And you can see Suh right in the middle right there. The center was coming down to help, but that didn't even matter. And Carl Pelini talked about that, teaching Suh how to attack the double team, and that time he attacked the guy to the right, and the double team coming from the left could not even help out.
On third down, Rusty Smith will go from the shotgun. Looking down the middle, pass incomplete, intended for Jamari Grant, the tight end, who looks more like a wide receiver. On the coverage was Ricky Tenars. Or take that, Lance Thorell was on the coverage, coming in as the nickelback.
Plenty of time back there once again, and Terrell does a nice job of running with the tight end down the middle. The tight end, the receiver, shows you when the ball is in the neighborhood, and when he reaches for the ball, a good job of Tennell reacting to it right there.
Well, you saw also Jared Crick putting pressure on Rusty Smith on that play. And it's the second punt of the evening for Peterson. Niles Paul is back standing on his own 45. No pressure. Low, wobbly, short kick, and now saying, get away from it, guys. Get away from it. And again, great field position. The first time Nebraska could not take advantage of it. And Bo Pelini's squad, we are scoreless in the first. 10-13 left in quarter number 1. The fans are enjoying it. Not sure exactly what that get-up is.
That's some kind of a corn cob.
Oh, okay, whatever. And there's Sean Watson on the right-hand side, an outstanding not only offensive coordinator but person. And Sean Watson, who was offensive coordinator of Colorado a few years ago, he does a great job on balance. You've kind of touched on it, that he wants balance, but he also said one of the keys to his offense is they really need to get in rhythm.
Yeah, and he definitely wants balance. I think early in this game, when you have Zack Lee getting his first start, I think what you're going to see is a more run-heavy offense. You talked about in Colorado, Ron, a minute ago, the flexibility. You can see right there in 2001, you can see a heavy run, not so much pass because he had running backs and no quarterback, but in 03 he had Joel Clack. That reversed. I think early in this season, you're going to see Nebraska run the football a little bit more.
Well, Ben Cotton, the redshirt freshman tight end, is checked into the lineup. Roy Helu Jr. He's able to pick up a couple of yards. Well, let's take a look at Florida Atlantic's defensive starters. They're young and inexperienced. Only 3 defensive starters are back. Josh Savage, he's already made 1 tackle. He's the most experienced. Linebackers, they're all new, but Edward Gradwell did have 1 start last year. That was in the bowl game. And the secondary, the solid guy is Ed Alexander at free safety. He is a 2-year starter. But they do have some speed back there. Roy Helu again. This time he gets a block over the 35 down to the 33-yard line.
And you talked about the speed that Florida Atlantic has. They're very undersized, but they are athletic and they're fast. And this is what Sean Watson wants to do. He talks about getting outside of the defense. This is exactly what you want to do, just basically a sweep. And that's where Roy Helu is at his best. He's very much a slasher. He's decent between the tackles, but get him out in space, and he's going to make some nice plays for you. 6.4 average last year running the football. That's the best in Nebraska in 7 years. Now McNeil goes to the right side. A little play action. Here comes the rush. Lee reads it, gets it to McNeil, and he is stood up, maybe picking up about a yard on the play. That'll set up a second down at about 9. Defensive end Kevin Surreal for Florida Atlantic had contain on that side, and Zack Lee does a good job. Play action fake, get your head around. There's contain, there's McNeil in the flat, and that's what McNeil is going to be to Zack Lee early on in the season. He's kind of an outlet receiver. Your tight ends, your running backs, they define their routes quicker, safer throws, and things that allow you to get rid of the ball much faster. Second down and 8. Lee again, straight ahead handoff.
Michael Lockley coming up with a stop. You know, we talked to Sean Watson yesterday at length about Zack Lee. First of all, they're very high on the young man, but they want to make it easy on Zack. And it may sound like a very trite comment, but explain as a quarterback what they mean when they say make it easy on you.
Well, first of all, you want to run the football. I mean, you want to control the line of scrimmage. Running the football makes your offensive line more aggressive early, and then you let them pass block as the game goes along. But also, Zack Lee needs to get settled in a little bit. See the defense across from you, make some calls, get in and out of the huddle, and then start throwing the football.
Zack Lee looking left, throwing left, pass is complete to Ho. Has some running room, gets a block, touchdown Nebraska. Kelly Karinsky Gillan should also get a game ball on that because he lowered the boom on a block, which opened it up for Holt.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get a look at that just as Holt broke to the left. Watch number 11, Gillan coming in, but it's a hook route. Throw with timing, a good accurate pass allows your receiver to do something with it afterwards.
Alex Henry to get the extra point. Only missed one last year, and his first one of 2009 is perfect. Mentally Holt, only one touchdown reception last year, but the big-bodied senior from San Diego, California, comes up with his first this year. Let's take a look at the route. Kelly, break it down for us.
It's a pretty simple route. Just get onto the toes of the defensive back and break it off, a hook route, and then it's the accurate pass that Lee threw to Holt and allows him to get outside and get yards after the catch. That's a great way to start, and that's the influence of the running game. Florida Atlantic was on their heels a little bit defensively, and then you drop back and throw the football. That vintage Sean Watson.
Zack Lee was 1 of 2 coming into this game prior to this season. He's 3 of 3 tonight for 33 yards and a touchdown.
And that's really the first throw that has really gone downfield. The rest of the stuff has been more kind of control, screen type of things. But that's a sign that he's getting into the game a little bit. And Sean Watson says, if anything, Zack Lee might possess a little bit too much confidence at times. So this isn't a young man that's looking to get settled in. He wants to play big early.
7:41 left to play in the first. Kanalik set to kick it away. Roll and McIntosh back for Florida Atlantic. Kicking with a very slight wind, and it's going to be run out by McIntosh. Nope, he decided not to chance it. Smart move, young man.
You know, that's an area, Ron, that we'll talk about as this game goes along, but Nebraska needs to get better in their coverage games. And they will do that, I think, because their depth on defense is getting better. When your depth grows at the linebacker position and the defensive backfield, those are the guys that are on those coverage teams. Typically, those teams get better as well.
And Rusty Smith so far tonight, just 1 of 4 for 5 yards. Morris in the I formation. Nebraska brings 5. Morris straight ahead, has the gap, has the first down, and 3 to spare. Pierre Allen finally tracking him down.
Well, keep an eye on number 76, the center, Wisniewski, blocking on Sue right there. He blocks down, and that right there is the block that Morris is running off of. We saw Sue get into the backfield a couple of times. A very good job by 76, Ryan Wisniewski, on that play.
Former backup guard. Nice job running the football by Morris, the sophomore from Pensacola, Florida. Smith looks, nothing doing. Oh my, Anthony West had a big time hit on Bonner. That was just a mistimed play, don't you think?
Yeah, Rusty Smith doesn't look very comfortable in the pocket, and he's the 4th-year starter coming into this season. And Zack Lee looks a little more comfortable than even Rusty Smith does, but that was just a slant route thrown well behind the receiver.
Smith, 2-time bowl MVP, was the Sun Belt Player of the Year in 07. Got a new coach, Jeff Brom. Brian Brom's brother is the quarterback coach. They've tried to tweak some things in his game. Willie Rose, the fullback, looks for a block, doesn't get it. He was hoping that Carl Spitali would The right tackle would be able to free him up. Wasn't able to do it. Will Compton, the redshirt freshman from Missouri, with the stop.
And even though, Ron, Nebraska is young and inexperienced at their linebacker position, they have a serious upgrade in athleticism and speed. And those guys, Compton on that play, they're going to cover some ground sideline to sideline.
Bonner and Grant wide to the left. 3rd down and 6 from the 37-yard line. And we've got some jumping. And it's going to be against Florida Atlantic. He also had problems with penalties last year. They were 113th in the country. Lavoris Williams, the senior out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is the culprit.
Top of the screen right there, left tackle. Just when you're that big, Ron, and something starts to twitch, it's hard to get it under control, and you can see it on that play. There's
Carl Pelini, defensive coordinator. He's excited about this defense. Knows there's a lot of room for improvement, but he likes where they are right now. 3rd down and 11. Smith has some time. They try to set up the screen to Rose. He crosses the 40, close to the 1st down. He'll be about a yard short. And Dominican Sue again covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. This is what elite players do. And Dominican Sue right there in the middle of the screen. It's a screen away from him, but look where he makes the tackle. Way downfield, the speed, not giving up on the play. And I talked about Bo and Carl Pelini's influence in that young man's play. Play with purpose and do not take a play off. There's a great example of it.
And Keegan Peterson will kick it away again. This will be his 3rd punt already. He had 2 blocked last year, but Nebraska doesn't even make an effort to go for it. Paul running up. He is hit. Penalty flag goes down, but he still made the catch at the 27-yard line. So they'll tack out a few more yards, and again, Nebraska getting good field position. 5:16 left to play in the opening quarter. We'll listen in. Our referee tonight is Adrian Hill.
Kick-catch interference, kicking team, number 27.
Well, what you're not hearing him say is kick-catch interference, and it's going to add another 10 yards to that play. But Niles Paul is back catching punts. Last year it was Nate Swift. Niles Paul relishes this role. He said that Nate Swift last year was more dependable, more courageous, more fearless. Niles Paul, as a leader of this team, wants to assume that position and do well with it. Great concentration right there.
You know, after this team got whacked by Missouri, it seemed like the light went on both offensively and defensively. Let's talk about defense. In 2007, this team was 116th nationally in rush defense. Carl Pelini and his squad, they knocked that down. They knocked total yards down, and I think people don't realize right there the sacks. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I think Kent talked about it at the top. When sacks increase like that and you still win 9 games but you're not getting takeaways, that's actually a great sign for Nebraska football, because typically in year 2 or 3, when sack starts to elevate, that's when you get a ton of takeovers. If this team gets takeovers and they're minus 11 winning 9 games, watch out in the North, and maybe they can actually challenge the South.
You know, Kent Pavelka is also with us. Kent, you know, we mentioned to Bo yesterday about winning 9 games. He said, I'm mad we didn't win 10. Kent, what do you got for us, partner?
Well, just a couple of observations. Number one, as you guys have been alluding to, the field position really advantageous for Nebraska here in the first quarter, and they're 1 for 2 in taking advantage of that. How bad has Florida Atlantic's punting game been so far? Conversely, Nebraska's kicking game, it's worth noting, has been clean so far, and that's important to point out because the Huskers have a new long snapper. They've got new holders.
Great point.
And so far, it's been without problem.
3 punts, an average of 30 yards.
That's not good.
No, it isn't.
That's a great point by Kent, though. When you have guys long snapping, redshirt freshmen, and holding, by the way, when Nebraska has the ball, those are areas to keep an eye on.
Lou and Legate now splitting on the sides of Zack Lee. 1st and 10 from the 38-yard line. Low snap, not a problem. Lee looks, rifles the pass off the hands intended for Helu. You know, one of the things we just saw there, Kelly, is Zack Lee going from the shotgun. Now, last year, Joe Gans was under center about 40% of the time. How much do you think they'll let Zack Lee do that?
I think it'll actually be similar. I think they like Zack Lee in the shotgun, but it's somewhat like Joe Gans. And you talked about kind of the revelation made in the Missouri game, and Sean Watson was front and center in that and saying, you know what we discovered is we're kind of an old school zone running team, gun reads, single back, but, you know, kind of that aggressive mentality, but let the quarterback play in the gun a little bit more.
That's a nice play picked up by Niles Paul, because it looked like Florida Atlantic, Mike Lockley made the tackle, but it looked like a lot of them went for the fake to the left side.
And just keep an eye right here on the protection, first of all, and how quickly Zack Lee makes a decision. Sean Watson told us yesterday they basically are going to divide the field in half. You saw his head constantly to the left. He's not necessarily staring down his receiver, but his entire read has been taken to that side of the field, and that's what you have to do with young players. That will expand as the year goes along, and he'll move from side to side by the end of this season. 3rd down and 4, Nebraska 1 and 2 in this situation. Lee steps up, nice job in the pocket, off the fingertips of McNeil. The pass was there, but we saw the poise of Zack Lee stepping into the pocket on that. And that's what I want to see. Zack Lee has a great arm. He's a fast guy in terms of straight ahead running, but how about the instincts in the pocket? A lot of times in the pocket, you don't have to be a world beater in terms of speed. It's the subtle movement up, keep your head and eyes downfield, make a good throw, and Mike McNeil would be the first one to tell you he should have caught that football.
It was in his hands. Mike Smith looked like he was getting beat at that left tackle spot. Polo standing back on his 12-yard line. Henry, this is going to be a wobbly short kick. Polo runs up, got it, hit, dropped at the 30. Tackle made by Denard.
Ron, what I'm interested to see as the season goes along is with Henry taking on the punting duties, does that take away from his accuracy or his ability in his kicking duties? I think if there's any sign of that, Bo Pelini will question him being out there for both things.
31 yards on the kick. Nebraska leads 7-0, 4:10 left in the opening quarter. Morris, he is stacked up, not before he picks up 3. Baker Steinkuhler coming up to make the stop for the redshirt freshman out of guess where. Gee, that's a name I've heard before.
Yeah, once or twice. Big brother Ty moved on, and Daddy Dean has been here before. And what you see out of Nebraska's defense, this scheme, it's a penetrating 4-3 over type of defense, and those guys up front aren't just occupying offensive linemen, they're penetrating, and Baker Steinkuhler is one of those redshirt freshmen that brings depth to that front 7. You have Steinkuhler, you have Crick playing in front of him. Those guys are going to be hard to handle when you have to double team or do more than that with Sue down the line.
And they're going to give him a pickup of 3 on the play as we close in on 3.5 to play in the first. 2nd and 7. Rusty Smith, 6'5", 230-pound senior out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Very unusual to see Florida Atlantic go with an empty set back there.
And here comes the rush. They looked a little bubble screen. Lester Jean with the stop, or with the intended receiver.
It's very unusual. Florida Atlantic's more of a pro-style team, but keep an eye on the linebacker right there, Will Compton. It's read and diagnose. That's the kind of the bubble screen coming back inside, and that's exactly what the young linebacker has to do. That's where the speed shows up. As soon as their mind lets their feet loose, you will see speed at the linebacker position for Nebraska that you haven't seen in a long while.
3rd down and 7. Florida Atlantic is yet to be successful on 3rd down. Smith rifles over the middle, pass is caught, and they'll give him the first down over the 40-yard line. It'll be Jason Harmon, the big tight end out of Tampa, Florida, who didn't play last year, but he had 63 receptions back in 2007, and he is a heck of an addition.
And Eric Haig was coming in there as that nickel back that's in the game, and that's where those tight ends create problems. They're a mismatch for a defensive back and a linebacker because they actually are big-bodied tight ends. but they run somewhat like wide receivers.
You have to play them like a wide receiver. We've got a penalty. A little whistle. That's a great point because you look at all three of them. Grant, Harmon, Hausler's probably not going to play tonight. I think they're going to try to redshirt him. But they're all about 6'3", 6'4", 215 pounds.
Yeah, 215 pounds. And you have Menelik Holt, the starting wideout at X for Nebraska, is bigger than that. So it's basically they use them somewhat like moving inside slot receivers for the most part.
Now let's see if we can listen in. Maybe we got the mic working
Before
out.
the snap, timeout, Nebraska, their first at a half.
Well, I thought they may challenge the spot of the ball.
A 30-second timeout.
Bo's trying to find out now. Who did you say called this timeout?
I thought they may be challenging, the spot of the football. But that's such a tough call as you look at Howard Schnellenberger. Just an outstanding career as a head football coach in his 9th year. And you have to understand, my friends, there was no program 10 years ago.
Yeah. You know what is interesting? He was hired to raise the money and get the program launched. And then in year 2, he hires himself as the head coach, which I think was a great hire.
Exactly.
By himself. And I think he's the guy to do it. He's been in places where he's built programs, Miami, Louisville. And you see all the first right here, Ron. The first year of football Division I is 2001. 2003, the first playoff game. They went to the first FBS game in 2006 and the first Sun Belt Conference to win back-to-back bowl games at this point.
He's never lost a bowl game, by the way, 6-0. Gent on the reception up to the 45-yard line. Pick up a 4 on the play, or 5. Anthony West on the stop.
Now, Ron, Anthony West did a nice job of closing on Gent on that play, and that's what you want to see out of Nebraska secondary in this second year of this Bo Pelini, Carl Pelini scheme, is you want to see him making better plays and attacking the ball in the air, getting more interceptions.
Only 34 yards of offense for Florida Atlantic, but they seem to be getting a little bit going now on cylinders. This is Morris. He is finally shoved out of bounds, but not before he gets the first down. Pierre Allen, the junior out of Denver, Colorado, on the stop, who did a great job last year in the second game. Of course, Barry Turner broke his leg. Allen came in, and I'll tell you, he more than tripled his tackles from the year before in 2008.
Yeah, Barry Turner, if he's back as good as he was before, and you have Pierre Allen getting that year of experience last year, who actually jumps back over to the right side, kind of the blind side of the quarterback, you have 2 very good ends to go with the Dominican Sue in the middle.
From the shotgun, Smith rolls left, looks, fires into the flat, pass is caught to Chris Bonner. And he's inside the 30 down to the 29-yard line. It was Amukamara on the coverage.
Amukamara had actually great coverage, but it was just a slightly better route. A little push-off right there at the end is what the offensive or the defensive coaches on the Nebraska sideline were fussing about, but that's where Rusty Smith is very good. He gets outside the pocket, he can change the angle of his arm, and he's extremely accurate.
24 touchdown passes last year. Morris, nothing doing, and Dominican Sue, yet another tackle. When I look at Rusty Smith's throwing motion, is it like Bernie Kosar to you?
Yeah,
Just me.
I watched it on tape, and that's the first thing that popped out of me is Bernie Kosar. And what was interesting is Howard Schnellenberger had made the comparison to Bernie Kosar, but it was more from a mental standpoint. Rusty is a very intelligent quarterback, starting his 4th season, reads defense as well. But it's kind of that awkward 3-quarter sling and the sidearm type thing that Rusty Smith goes at.
Rose goes in motion, empties the backfield. Smith with plenty of time. Pass incomplete, intended for Rose. Blake Lawrence on the coverage, the junior out of Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
We talked about Smith's throwing motion. Keep an eye on it right here. It's not over the top. He takes it back, and then it's kind of 3-quarter. And that really isn't a bad thing. When by the time quarterbacks get to this point in their career, coaches don't want to touch this. He's been very productive with it. That one comes up some like a waterfowl that's migrating through Nebraska at this point in time. But he's very productive. That works for him. It just looks a little awkward.
On 3rd and 10, Smith running out of real estate. He's going to throw it away. almost a dangerous throw, and he's yelling at some of his players saying, you ran the wrong route.
I think it was Chris Bonner, number 7, that comes inside. You can see Gent right there, but Bonner comes inside and kind of sets down, and I think Rusty Smith would have liked him to continue on. You see coming right back there, and the big tight end, actually, they ended up with 2 receivers, Jason Harmon and Chris Bonner, right in the same location. One of them was doing the wrong thing, and I think looking at that angle, the big tight end Harmon should have taken that route deeper.
This is going to be a 46-yard attempt by Ross Cornell. He's only attempted 1 field goal prior to tonight. Not only have a new field goal kicker, but you also have a new snapper and a new holder in Keegan Peterson, the punter. We've got a timeout. It's 4th down and 10. No pressure on that young man.
No, and Florida Atlantic did not do a very good job of kicking the ball last year, so Ganal gets an opportunity here, and this is where Nebraska's defensive front should come into play, especially a longer field goal run. Sometimes it's lower coming over the line of scrimmage. That defensive line can get some penetration and get a hand on this one.
Well, Howard Schnellenberger telling us on Wednesday that he felt there were a lot of question marks in the special teams. But one thing he said is we did have a great training camp, and I found this interesting. We have to improve dramatically during the season.
Dramatically?
Yeah, I've never heard a coach say that. Dramatically. Once again, it's spotted at about the 36-yard line. 46-yard attempt. And it's blocked. Jared Crick put the hand on it. Well, we talked about Crick. I think he's the one that got the meat hooks on it.
He's going to come from the left side, and it's a great job of just defensive linemen. Even though they're 285, 300 pounds, they're taught to get skinny, and that's what getting skinny looks like. You have to get through that double team right there, and Crick does a nice job. Watch out for Jared Crick playing next to Ndamukong Suh as this season goes along. He's a great athlete from Cozad High School. He's a thrower in track. He was a basketball player. He has great feet. This young man is going to be a star.
The man who idolized Adam Carricker growing up. Not a bad guy to idolize.
He kind of resembled him right there on that play.
So Nebraska will take over 1st and 10, their own 28-yard line. Final 32 seconds of quarter number 1. Roy Helu getting all the playing time in the backfield, and again Lee from the shotgun. Almost breaking it. Helu Jr. going up over the 32-yard line. Malik Eugene, the junior from Tampa, Florida, hanging on to his legs.
Nebraska with the double tights on this side. They're going to end up running to that side. Everything up front is just kind of misdirection. You can see number 74, Ricky Henry, was also pulling around the center and getting over to that side. Initially, the steps of the running back is exactly what the linebackers are keying on, Rod. You set the direction one way, and then you go back the other way.
And that's the way the first quarter is going to end. Nebraska, the only one to dent the scoreboard. And they did it on a Zack Lee to Meneleke Colt touchdown pass. Second quarter straight ahead. The Huskers lead it 7-0. Telling us on Wednesday that was the absolute right thing to do by Tom Osborne, to go for 2 points. He said his guys called the right defense immediately. They took away Turner Gill running the ball, used a trio of coverage. And Kent, I think that's one of the losses in Nebraska history that's still fresh.
Well, Ron, I didn't hear exactly what you said, but, I want to refer back to what Kelly's reference to our visit with Howard Schnellenberger earlier in the week. He described that play from a defensive point of view, from the Miami point of view. Let me describe it from the offensive point of view, the 2-point conversion that didn't work. It's supposed to be Gill to Smith, as everybody knows. What happened was Irving Fryer was to have set a pick on Ken Calhoun. He didn't get the pick set. As a result, Calhoun was able to go underneath it. Had he been forced to go over the top of it, he never would have touched the ball. Nebraska would have had its first national championship under Tom Osborne 12 years earlier.
Well, Miami had blocked a field goal earlier in that game. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Absolutely.
Well, Nebraska 2nd down and 6 from the 32-yard line as we begin quarter number 2. Zack Lee looking, showing patience. Holt stood up at the 35-yard line. Pickup of about 3 on the play. Malik Eugene with his second stop of the evening.
We go back to that play in the Orange Bowl that we just saw, and it was 34 double dog trio coverage. Howard Schnellenberger went through every phase of it, and Kent just ran through the offensive side of it. If Turner Gill, regardless of all of that, puts that ball out maybe another 1.5 feet in front, it's probably the difference. But in the end, sometimes the defense just makes a slightly better play than the offense, and that was an inopportune time for Nebraska to have that happen.
A little jumbo set to the left. Helu got some blockers in front of him. Gets 2, gets 3, and he picks up a bunch to midfield. Nice block by Jacob Hickman, the center, the senior out of Bakersfield, California. We saw his quick feet and athleticism.
Yeah, watch Jacob, 67, getting outside, along with Mike Smith. When your lead blockers, Hickman and Smith, get outside intact, as those two big guys are, and you see Mike McNeil sealing the edge as well, that's when Roy Helu is going to be very, very good on the edge. That's a great look at it. And Jacob Hickman has very good feet. And when you can pull your center, create an opportunity outside, it's a great advantage for Nebraska.
Lee going down the middle, wide open, Gillan, and he will score. Touchdown, Nebraska. .51 yards on the touchdown.
Gillan is just actually going to come in the middle of the field running somewhat of a seam route outside of McNeil. We can't see him to the left of your screen. They actually change positions on the fly. McNeil goes outside, Gillan comes inside, and Florida Atlantic completely dropped the coverage.
Henry's extra point is good. First series of the second quarter, Nebraska strikes on the arm of Zack Lee. 2 touchdown passes on the evening. Nebraska leads it 14-0. Bo Pelini telling us they're more prepared to make a bigger jump this year than they were in 2008. And right now, both the offense and defense playing well. Let's look at the touchdown pass.
And it starts up front. You can see right there what a pocket that Zack Lee has. And you talk about getting comfortable. That's how young quarterbacks get comfortable. And Gillan is just going to come down the middle. The play action to Helu right there. Guess what Nebraska did on the play before that? They gashed Florida Atlantic with a running play. You come back, play action over the top, and that's what Sean Watson likes to do. He's about 2 or 3 steps ahead of the defense typically. Play action pass off of a successful run. Zack Lee gets comfortable. Your big offensive line's blocking well. That pretty much wraps it up.
28-yard touchdown pass and a 51-yard touchdown pass for Lee. This will be McIntosh as Canala kicking into a little breeze, and McIntosh over the 20. Lost the football at the 25-yard line. We've got a scrum. Nebraska coaches saying they've got it. The players saying they've got it, but the guys in stripes are the ones who count. No, Florida Atlantic. Good coverage by the special teams, O'Kelly.
And that's where you see that depth on the defensive side of the ball that's getting better. That's where you see it show up on the coverage teams. Linebackers and backup defensive backs are out there primarily on this team, along with some backup wide receivers. And you start to get better special teams play. You get more hats to the ball tends to pop out. Violent collisions happen on these teams.
Yeah. The last series for Florida Atlantic, they moved the football only to have a 46-yard field goal block. But they did move it. Penalty flag. Have you seen whether or not the tight ends are really becoming the option for this Florida? I really expected a little bit more. I don't know about you.
I think Nebraska's doing a very good job in coverage. And when you're talking about tight ends and or running backs running routes, typically you're talking about linebackers that have to cover them. That's where Carl Pelini was a little concerned, because they have very intricate concepts. They have to read routes at that linebacker position. He was a little concerned about young linebackers covering tight ends.
Willie Rose, the fullback, upended, close to the 25-yard line. Allen and Crick on the stop. What I'm seeing also defensively for Nebraska, outstanding pursuit by the line.
Oh, man. You talk about it starts at the line, and we talked about the cornerstone of Bo Pelini. That front seven, those defensive linemen, they get penetration, they stay on their feet, and what they're doing is they're occupying linemen just by getting penetration. And that frees up that linebacking core to use their speed and run freely to the football.
We've got a new quarterback. Rusty Smith is out of the game. We don't know why. Jeff Van Kemp, the junior out of Gulf Breeze, Florida. He threw 20 passes last year. He just flips it to Rose, and we're waiting to see. I do not see Rusty Smith on the sideline. Well, I see him. He's got a headset on now. Compton on the stop. Very interesting, unless this is by design.
I think it might be by design. When you have a senior quarterback, you're off to a slow start, you're on the road, and eventually Rusty Smith is going to graduate, and Van Camp seems the heir apparent. You get him some reps early. I didn't see anything that would have shown that Rusty Smith got hurt.
25 career passes for Van Camp, no touchdown passes. Interesting, though, the field position where you bring this guy in. Van Camp sets his feet, goes in triple coverage, and it is knocked away, intercepted. Matt O'Hanlon. The intended receiver was Lester Jean. We have a penalty flag back at the 15. And it's a personal foul. Oh, my. Take away the interception.
Well, it's situations like that is why Nebraska ended up -11 in the turnover takeaway. But Jared Crick is very active. He gets after the quarterback right here, but with youth comes great plays and comes mistakes right there. It was kind of borderline, but you have to let the quarterback go at the end of it. But I liked what Matt O'Hanlon did at the other end. Nebraska's secondary have to have that mentality, Ron, where they have to attack the football when it's in the air. It's just as much yours as it is the receivers, and O'Hanlon did a nice job on that play.
And once again, one of the emphasis by officials, and rightly so this year, player safety.
Yeah, they're not going to tolerate stuff like that. If the ball's gone, you have to do all you can, and Jared Crick could have gotten by with going up there and contacting him in some way, but he actually had to extend his arms to create that contact.
Right. Once you do that, you're going to get nailed.
Absolutely.
Carl Pelini saying, wait a minute, what's going on? And the flag is thrown on 1st and 10 from the 43.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense, number 64, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Max Carrick, the sophomore from Palm City, Florida. And I think both Carl Pelini was calling that before the officials did.
Watch the right side of the offensive line right there. Number 64. Marek right there, but it's Nebraska. I mean, this stadium is loud, and Florida Atlantic has played a lot of big games on the road, but you don't play in many places like Memorial Stadium.
Try to set up the screen. They do to Willie Rose. He's got some blockers in front of him, but Nebraska closes quickly, but he's able to get up to the 48-yard line, and Ndamukong Suh again running the length of the field. Amukamara also on the stop.
And this is Florida Atlantic's way, Daryl Jackson, the offensive coordinator, to slow down this rush, actually bringing extra guys out of the secondary, screen away from Ndamukong Suh, but who ends up making the tackle? Ndamukong Suh from about 12 or 15 yards downfield.
4 tackles for Suh on the evening. Van Camp keeps it, got the first down as he crosses the 50 down to the 45-yard line. Will Compton on the stop, but Jeff Van Camp showing us a little running ability.
And Ron, that's a good point, because I think that's exactly why Van Camp may be in the football game. Rusty Smith isn't going to run the football much, and with this Nebraska offense, if they know you're going to be sitting about 7 yards deep in the pocket as a pocket passer, they just pin their ears back and get after you. If you're not a run threat, Jeff Van Camp is a run threat.
To Morris. They fake the handoff to Bonner, give it to Morris, and again a big chunk of yardage. Larry Asante having to come up from that strong safety spot. This is the second possession for Florida Atlantic, Kelly, that they've moved the ball.
And Florida Atlantic has made some adjustments. They're running a little bit different. Lead fullback putting the guy in motion. Morris is a big back. They've adjusted. Van Camp brings a little bit more to the table with his feet. Carl Pelini's guys on the field need to adjust as well.
Florida Atlantic 0-6 versus the Big 12, including last year to Texas 52-10. Morris will be close to the first down. Nebraska players pointing, but I think it's Florida Atlantic's football as he got close to the 36-yard line. Asante again on the stop.
Yeah, Larry Asante did a nice job coming up from his strong safety position. But look up front in the front seven, there's a hat on a hat. All of a sudden, Florida Atlantic is getting a better fit on the offensive line of scrimmage, securing double teams, getting to the second level. The fullback gets up in there, Willie Rose, and then Alfred Morris is a nice ball carrier, maybe the most complete back that Florida Atlantic has had under Howard Snellenberger. He told us that, which is, you're only talking about 8 years, but
yeah,
that says a lot. He brings a lot to the table from that position.
He's big, elusive, not much experience, and that'll be another first down.
But Ron, right now, Nebraska's not doing a very good job of getting off blocks in the front seven. Up until this point, they were doing a great job, and there's difference between just getting a surge where the offensive lineman can control you and getting penetration with your hands under control. And right now, Florida Atlantic is winning that battle.
Barry Turner out, Cameron Meredith in, the redshirt freshman out of Santa Ana, California, defensive end for the Huskers. 1st and 10, Florida Atlantic from the 36. And again, we have movement. David Matlock this time from the left guard spot. A 2-year starter. Is that their third false start, Kelly? Something like that, third?
Yeah, I think it is their third. And 72 is also obviously going somewhere. The big boy wanted to get started early. He was pulling to the right side, either escorting the quarterback or the running back, one or the other.
Now 1st down and 15, 9:35 to play in the opening half. Van Camp looking, throwing back. Willie Rose wide open inside the 20, the 10, the 5, down to the 3-yard line. Blake Lawrence hanging on for dear life. What a great play, though, starting with Jeff Van Camp. He sold that thing.
And I think this was actually the play that they were going to run when they got called for motion. You're going to roll to the right side, give the illusion that you're doing something out to the right side, but the play is to the fullback all the way. You can see 72 David Matlock is out there on time escorting the quarterback Jeff Van Camp, but it's always a throwback to the fullback.
1st and goal, Van Camp trying to buy some time in the corner of the end zone. Caught, waiting for the signal. Still haven't seen it. No, incomplete. Intended for Jason Harmon. O'Hanlon was on the coverage. I thought Harmon came down with it, Kelly.
And Nebraska actually had this covered everywhere but up high. They actually have about 3 guys. Harmon is going to come across or actually going to go to the corner right there from the tight end position. Throw it up high. If you have a big tight end, more of a big-bodied wide receiver, if you will. Very good throw. You just have to secure that and come down with it.
Well, I tell you, that's pretty close.
Timeout, Florida Atlantic, their second of the half.
You know, the catch is a process according to the NCAA, and you've got to have control.
There's no charge timeout. Replay is reviewing the previous play.
And once again, what they're looking for, the ground can't cause a fumble. That's not in college football, but they're trying to see if he did complete possession of that ball.
That's what it amounts to. If he had possession when he hit the ground, it should be called possession. And it looked like to me that he might have had that football. It starts to leak out a little bit on the ground out of his right arm, but this is going to be close.
I'll be able to take a look at it again and break it down just a little bit further, maybe with a little telestrator.
Harmon is in the back of the end zone, goes up and gets it. He obviously has it there. It comes out at the end, and it's the back judge right here coming across the back of the end zone that has the best look at it. He should be looking for possession, whether the receiver gets in and whether the receiver has the football. So he should have made the right call to begin with.
That's tough to see, though, because you can't really see if the ball's rolling up on his shoulder.
And remember, Ron, that's what they have to go by on the replays.
Right.
It's very important how it's called initially, because if there's not enough conclusive evidence to overturn it, they have to leave it the way it was called originally.
We're at 9 minutes left in the opening half. Nebraska leads 14-0. Those of you that are just joining us, first of all, shame on you.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The receiver intercepts incomplete pass, second down.
Well, when they say confirm, that means they were right.
Yeah.
If they say it stands, they just weren't sure.
Yeah,
Nothing
stands means there wasn't conclusive evidence.
Now, so that'll bring up a 2nd and goal from the 3-yard line.
And typically, if the officials are in the right positions, which they are right here, they generally get things right, and I believe they got it right on that play.
From the I formation, Morris tackled in the backfield, leans forward to get inside the 5 to the 4, but he'll still lose a yard. Pierre Allen again on the stop.
Pierre Allen is a physical pass rusher, but he gets off the ball so very well as he does right there. Blows up the blocks, makes a nice play. That's that penetrating quickness that this defensive line has for Nebraska that is going to give people trouble all year long.
3rd tackle for Allen. 3rd and goal just inside the 5. Van Camp, I don't know what he was doing there. Willie Rose was close. Sean Fisher was putting pressure on him. Can you figure out what happened?
No, I really can't. It was the same pass pattern to the opposite side. The tight end right there, number 88, Harmon, is going to go to the back of the end zone. You have your fullback trying to get out into the flat, and Van Camp just believes he's not going to get outside of all that. It was very well covered this time around, unlike the first time.
Well, I think he also saw that Rose had Sean Fisher right on his shoulder. Maybe he was trying to dump him. Now we'll try another field goal attempt. Gornall had a 46-yarder blocked earlier. This is at the 11. It's a 21-yarder. Snap is good, the hold is good, and the kick is good. So Florida Atlantic gets on the board. 8:13 left to play in the half. 14-3 is our score. 14-3 is our score. 8:13, along with Ken Pavelka, Kelly Stoffer, I'm Ron Thulin. Welcome you to the 298th consecutive sellout at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. One of the stats that stands out, not only has Florida Atlantic have more yards than Nebraska at this point in the contest, but Kelly, the time of possession.
Well, a lot of the time of possession was on that last drive for Florida Atlantic, and the big plays for Nebraska, the 2 long scoring touchdowns. And I think Nebraska is where they want to be offensively. Defensively, I guarantee you that Bo and Carl Pelini didn't like that last drive by Florida Atlantic a lick.
Well, the last 2 possessions by Florida Atlantic, they've moved the ball.
They really have. And I think that's where the adjustments were made. About midway through, kind of the end of the second quarter, or first quarter, midway through the second quarter, adjustments take place. And I think Florida Atlantic adjusted better in that quarter.
Niles Paul from about the 2-yard line. Breaks over the 15, lunges forward to the 17-yard line. And that's where the Huskers will take over. 125 total yards in the ball game so far for Nebraska. Zack Lee, 6 of 8, 95 yards and a couple of touchdowns, including the 51-yarder to Karinsky Gillan.
Yeah, and the 2 incompletions he has are dropped passes, so he's been very efficient. And actually, I think the offensive coaches will be very pleased with what they've seen out of this team here today. But what you want right now is to extend it. Going into halftime, you have a little over 8 minutes, a great drive, do a lot of things right, and go down and get a touchdown here.
And we're getting our first look at Rex Burkhead, the talented freshman out of Plano High School in Texas. You know, you look at Rex Burkhead, 5'11", 200 pounds, but you have to say he's almost a carbon copy of Roy Heller.
They have almost identical skill sets, I believe. They're slashers. They're very good out in open spaces. They can cut quickly out in open spaces. They're adequate, I think, between the tackles. I think with a young running back, what you want to see is, can he secure the football, hang on to it in traffic, and can he pass protect, and he'll get initiated right here.
On 2nd down and 6, they get it to Burkhead. Penalty flags come flying in as he nears the 30-yard line, which would be good enough for a first down. Helu Jr, who's been in a ton of tackles for Florida Atlantic.
Jacob Hickman might get called for holding right here on number 95, Josh Savage. He was kind of the backside of this play. It's kind of a cutoff block.
I think it was Hickman. Was it Hickman?
I didn't hear who they called it on, but 67 right there, driving his guy off. Actually, no, it's down here. I think it's the tight end, number 81, Ben Cotton. Guy was going up inside, and anytime you see that jersey move away from the defender's body, generally someone is going to be watching. That's a young player making a mistake at the point of attack, so it was an important block, but you have to let go when you're beat.
Now it's 2nd down and 16. You think Ben Cotton or Barty Cotton's going to get on Ben later?
Just a skosh.
Just a little bit. Lee into the flat to McNeil. Spins away from one tackle. Over the 20 to the 23-yard line. Edward Bradwell. First start was the Motor City Bowl. Comes up with a stop.
And this is Mike McNeil's role in this offense. You can see him coming into your screen right there. Zack Lee gets rid of it quickly, does the right thing, throws to the right guy, the big tight end, gets a lot of that penalty back, and it puts you in third in a more manageable situation right now.
Well, one of the things Florida Atlantic was concerned about, and talking to Coach Hosa, the defensive coordinator, he said, listen, we've got to stop these guys between the tackles. And so far, I think Florida Atlantic's done a great job, only allowing 34 yards rushing. Pass thrown behind Gillan, but he's able to come up with it.
Florida Atlantic didn't do a very good job of covering that time. Gillan just comes off free right into this side of your screen. And Florida Atlantic, they're really playing the route, and they're going to adjust according to the release of the receivers. When Gillan goes inside, that safety that comes in right there at the end has to squeeze that down a lot quicker than that. Too little, too late. Zack Lee makes another good decision.
And another first down. Ball's up at the 32-yard line. Inside of 6 minutes to play in the half. Yeah, I think somebody's calling a timeout, and it will be Nebraska. And they'll still have a timeout left. You know, Bo Pelini, he was, I think he, along with the rest of the coaches, were biting at the bit yesterday. They were ready to get out of the football field. But it was interesting how they approached this game and what they wanted to see. We touched on it briefly in the open. You know, just let's show us some effort, complete effort, you know, whistle to whistle type play.
Yeah, and that's where we talked about culture. That's what Bo Pelini is talking about when he refers to the culture. The culture that they're putting in play here is you play relentlessly, you play physically, you're mentally tough, and you practice that way day in, day out. You don't worry about the result. That will take care of itself. And I think Bo is happy with that, but they want to see that translated to the field. Practice is great. Games are a different story.
I want to remind you that Nebraska football is back. The Huskers battle Arkansas State next Saturday, and thanks to your cable or video provider, you can watch the game on pay-per-view for only $29.95. Game 2 of the 2009 season, Nebraska versus Arkansas State, and it's only on pay-per-view. Access your digital program guide or call your video provider to order. Kelly, Kent, and I will be back next Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock. And I bet you he'll be back, too. Gummy bears in hand.
You bet. Same flavor, same hat, everything. He might even leave that stuff on all week.
I think that's the hat my man, Larry the Cable Guy, wears, isn't it?
You're right.
I think that's it. You know, we just saw Carl and Bo Pelini. A little-known fact that a lot of people overlook, and when you're around college football as much as we are, you realize the importance. Bo Pelini was able to keep his entire staff intact. Now you say, big deal. Well, that's the first time since 2002. And because of that, you have a better plan as a coaching staff on both sides of the football. Yeah,
continuity in coaches as well as on the field makes a huge difference. And especially when you're kind of in that phase of still installing your program and your schemes, you want the same coaches speaking to the players in year 2.
Now Rex Burkhead still in there. Lee pass off the fingertips of Holt. So that's 2 passes that should have been caught. One by McNeil and one by Holt this evening. I mean, you put those in there and Zack Lee's got a heck of a night going.
I mean, this is a very nice route. Work your way through the traffic on the back shoulder. They practice this all the time. It's a difficult catch, but it's a catch nonetheless that you have to make. Your momentum's going one way, the ball's on the back shoulder. Zack Lee made a great read, a very average throw, but that's the kind of catch that the receivers have to begin to make this year.
What's the old line? If it hits you in the hands, you should catch it.
Absolutely. Especially if this quarterback is telling you that.
Exactly. On 2nd and 10. A little shuttle pass. Burkhead up the middle over the 40 to the 42-yard line. Might be just about a half a yard short of the first down. Michael Lockley, the junior out of Orlando, Florida, on the stop. He's had to replace Florida Atlantic's leading tackler, Franz Joseph, who graduated.
I like the fact that Burkhead, a young running back, goes north and south. Get the ball, plant your foot, get downhill, and that's how he's going to earn some playing time early, is doing just that. Don't dance around. Be patient, but when you see green grass, absolutely hit the burst, and he has a little burst. You can see it right there.
I like the way he put 2 hands on the football after contact, too.
Yeah, if you don't secure the ball as a young running back, you'll be so far in the depth chart you won't see daylight.
3 tight end situation on 3rd down and short, and he gets it. Tavoris Hill coming up from that cornerback spot to make the stop on Burkhead. So we saw Roy Helu pretty much all the first quarter. Burkhead getting a lot of action now.
And once again, let your offensive line in short yardage get a hat on a hat. Follow the softness, and a good job of getting to the line of scrimmage. You press it, as Burkhead did behind Rick Henry right there. And that's when then you can just kind of feel the softness, and then you get the yards you need. A very good job of running by Burkhead.
Now we've got Roy Helu comes back into the game. McNeil goes from the fullback spot back to the tight end. On 1st and 10, ball's on the 45-yard line. Lee away from pressure. Was close to going over the line of scrimmage. Pass is incomplete. Intended for Kyler Reed. This is a redshirt freshman out of Shawnee, Kansas. But boy, I tell you what, Zack Lee got close to going over the line of scrimmage. He was very close.
And once again, I like the fill in the pocket right here. His head's downfield. You have to get out because the defense dictates it. You have an open receiver. Zack Lee has confidence in his arm right there. Kyrie Cooper drops the football, but that's the feel I want to see out of him, and I know the coaches do. There were more yards on the ground with his feet than putting that ball in the air. Go ahead and keep it and get as much as you can.
Kyler Reed is going to be a star, the coaches tell us. Couldn't come up with that one. Helu over the 50, over the 45, down to the 44. First down, Nebraska.
Ron, one of the big concerns after Quentin Castile being dismissed from this team a few days ago was who's going to get the tough yards on the edge or up inside. Helu and Burkhead are very strong runners. They don't have the pounds that Castile had, but right here, the yards after contact are vital for offenses, and Helu does a nice job on that play. Nothing like yak yards. 1st and 10 from the 44. Good drive for Nebraska as we close in on 3 minutes to play in the opening half. Helu comes out of the backfield as a safety valve. Lee goes up top to his tight end. McNeil caught. And it is a completion inside the 20 down to the 15-yard line. How valuable is Mike McNeil? Now, they challenged him to be a better blocker, but you look at last season, he had a breakout year, catching 32 passes and 6 touchdowns. And McNeil is going to the corner, 44 down the field. A very good throw. When you have a tight end at 6'4", 240, working on a defensive back, throw it up there where he can go get it. Big-bodied receiver comes down, gets his feet in bounds, but what a throw by Zack Lee. That's impressive. Nebraska successful 87% of the time in the red zone last year. Lee's arm is hit. Helmet comes flying off of Marcel Jones. I think it was Malik Eugene that came in. And Marcel Jones, up at the top, gets his helmet taken off, but actually you're right, it's Malik Eugene. Kind of a delayed blitz from that strong outside linebacker position. I didn't really mind the decision by Zack Lee. It looked like he was trying to get rid of the ball on time. He might have waited a little bit too long, but you don't want to make a habit of throwing the ball under pressure like that.
Helu right up the middle inside the 5 down to the 3-yard line. Nice job by the left side of that offensive line opening up the hole. Antonio Rodriguez, the redshirt freshman, he had to come up from the strong safety spot to make the tackle, but watch how quickly Helu hits it.
Yeah, Ricky Henry getting around, stepping around the center, number 74, doing a good job of getting square once you get to the point of attack and leading Helu up inside. And you can see right there, Ron, Helu tried to bulk up a little bit. He's going to be a tough runner for Nebraska up inside.
Nice job by Mike Smith also. Straight ahead, maybe down to the 2-yard line. You know, the big guys just don't get enough credit. That's why we're blowing some smoke on Mike Smith and Keith Williams and Hickman.
And I think Nebraska, the question coming in is what is going to happen on the right side? And we just saw Henry, number 74, Ricky Henry, the play before, in a fold block. The center block's down. He steps around that block and gets square. Marcel Jones and DJ Jones on that right tackle. Now we see Marcel Jones flipping over and playing left tackle. I think they're in good hands on the line of scrimmage.
3 tight end formation. Lee keeps it. Stood up at the 1-yard line by Lockley. It looked like he had paid her, but that closed quickly.
And that's where Florida Atlantic's defense, I think, is at their best. It's their speed. Lockley, 45, skating along the line of scrimmage, squaring up and making a tackle on the quarterback. Sean Watson said that Zack Lee would get opportunities to run the football in this game. He felt he was a good runner. He could protect himself, make good decisions. That was a good decision, but a very nice play by Michael Lockley, number 45.
3rd and goal from the 1, and Nebraska's going to burn a timeout. Lockley already with 6 tackles tonight. He only had 11 all of last year, so number 45 for Florida Atlantic doing a nice job defensively.
Ron, remember when this drive started with 8:07 left in the half? We talked about the need to go down on a long drive, do a lot of things right. That's exactly what we've seen out of Nebraska's offense. 1:27 left. They've done a lot of nice things on this drive.
And Nebraska is out of timeouts. They called their final, so they've got 1:27 to work with. They're on the 1-yard line. Nebraska struck first. Lee to Holt, covered 28 yards. Nebraska blocked the field goal in that opening quarter, so at the end of 1, it was 7-0. And then it was Lee to Gillan going for another touchdown, 51 yards, made it 14-0. Then Howard Schnellenberger's team gets the field goal by Gornall, a 21-yarder, and made it 14-3. That's where we stand right now. You know, his team has played these big games before. I mean, they're not afraid to play the Texases. Now, last year, of course, he sort of alluded to that Texas wasn't tough. Now, I live in Texas. They took offense to that.
Yeah, I bet they did.
And even Rusty Smith said, well, you know, we may have come in a little too arrogant in that ball game.
Yeah, I heard a funny quote by Rusty Smith. They talked about they're going to build a new stadium in Boca Raton for this program. And Schnellenberger was saying, you know, Rusty Smith really is the guy who's built this stadium because he's been the 4-year face of this program. And Rusty Smith looked at him and said, yeah, you're also the one that's called Texas soft. So he didn't really take it to heart.
Yeah.
But I think right here for Nebraska, what you need to do is you have to challenge those guys up front. It's short yardage situation, down inside about on the 1-yard line. Typically, you would maybe want to roll Zack Lee out, get him outside the pocket, give him 2 or 3 different levels to look at receivers. But I think this is a great time to challenge the line of scrimmage and tell your guys up front to blow this Florida Atlantic defensive line off the football.
Well, with 3rd down and goal from the 1, I was expecting Ndamukong Suh to come in here and block, like we saw him last year. This time it's Helu from the I formation behind Legate. Helu leans forward. No call from the official yet. They're running in, and they look like they spotted it short. It'll be at about the 1-foot line. Nice job by the Owls.
I think the same play, just probably the other side right here as the clock continues to run. I think Zack Lee probably gets the same play, steps back in the huddle and calls it again. The penetration wasn't that good by Florida Atlantic. Nebraska did a nice job on the line of scrimmage. It's all about penetration down here.
4th and goal, straight ahead. Helu, touchdown, Nebraska. Nice job by Ricky Henry and Marcel Jones. opening up that right side.
Jacob Hickman, number 67, was in on it as well. It's going to go to that side. Do a very good job of stepping around and getting a body on a body, and Derek Meyer was the left guard. Did a great job. He came around from the left side, stumbled a little bit, but got square in the hole and blew the last Owl defender out of it.
Meyer, the senior out of Campbell, Nebraska, starting in place of Keith Williams. Williams, they said could play, but they just wanted to wait. Henry's extra point is good, and with 51 seconds left, Roy Helu has given Nebraska the lead at 21-3. Helu last year was 7 rushing touchdowns. He gets his first of 2009.
If Nebraska is going to get back to where they've been before, they have to be nasty up front.
Right.
And this is the place you have to do it. You're going to get no penetration. Right there is a nice job by Derek Meyer, stepping around the center, regaining his balance, getting square on the defender, and opening up the hole. But if the Cornhuskers are going to get back to championships, Big 12 North titles, challenge the South, and eventually challenge for national championships, they have to get the pipeline going up front. The big nasties have to get that edge back, and there are good signs that they're on their way to doing that.
Now, one thing that Sean Watson really believes in, he says, I don't care what kind of offense you play, even with the spread, you have to run the football.
Well, I heard a comment by Barney Cotton. They were talking about their zone scheme up front, and you can tell they're doing a lot of things other than zone. They're stepping guys around. We saw Derek Meyer on that play. But he said a zone scheme is not a soft scheme. We're teaching our guys that group mentality coming off the ball needs to be an aggressive mentality.
But Alex' kick is going to be short, and it'll be McIntosh bobbling in at the 7. Nebraska converging, and they drop it back at the 14-yard line. A return of only 7 yards.
You know, Ron, those hidden yards in special teams, they called it those yards, hidden yards, the return yards, and I think Nebraska is showing very good signs of being much improved on their coverage teams.
Right.
When we talked about the depth at linebacker, defensive back, even wide receiver and running back, those guys show up on coverage teams, and they're doing a great job today.
Well, Rusty Smith is back in at quarterback. Jeff Van Kemp ran the series that led to the field goal. And it's Alfred Morris up over the 25. Nice job running the football up to the 28-yard line. Matt O'Hanlon on the stop. 37 seconds left to play in the half. Smith 5 of 12 only for 46 yards. Van Camp left after going 2 of 4. Smith looks, fires. Another first down, complete up to the 40 to Jamari Grant. That's Grant's first reception of the evening. And the clock goes to 20. Florida Atlantic still has a couple of timeouts left. Smith looks left, little quick looking pattern to Gent. He's got it. Another first down. The clock will stop as he gets to the 47 of Nebraska. This is a nice drive.
Rusty Smith is very good at running this. Obviously, he's a 4-year starter, has a ton of experience. He's getting guys in and out of the huddle, making quick decisions, throwing the ball accurately. Nebraska kind of got a little bit caught off guard right there. They didn't seem like they were closing their coverage near as much as they were early in the game. You want to play a little soft, but you don't want to be too generous.
Now Howard Schnellenberger has to look up at the scoreboard and say, okay, 21-3, we're down, yes, by 18, but he's got to be pleased with his guys' effort. I mean, they've already hung 176 yards on Nebraska. That's not too shabby, and the clock is closed. In fact, Nebraska's taken the lead in time of possession. At one time, Howard's team had just about double time of possession.
And Florida Atlantic have played in some hostile places to begin the seasons in plenty of occasions. So they will continue to play hard, and that was their #1 goal. You would look for something outside right here and then try to kill the clock and maybe get a field goal attempt off.
Coach is telling us they just want to hang around in the 4th quarter. They'd love to be in that position. Smith looks over the middle. Almost picked off, should have been intercepted. Larry Asante had it in his hands. my goodness. What's the old line that are DBs or receivers you can't catch the ball?
Yeah, here's a good example of it. Larry Asante obviously should have caught that ball, but those are the plays that the secondary has to begin to make. It may not make a difference and most likely won't this afternoon, but it certainly is going to as the Big 12 schedule kicks in. Final play of the first half. Rusty Smith throws up a duck. This thing's quacking all the way down to the 10-yard line, and it is incomplete. Anthony West was one of the hands on the football. Nebraska 217 total yards. Florida Atlantic 176 total yards. But the stat that's the most important one on the scoreboard reads Nebraska 21 and Florida Atlantic 3. Nice first half by Zack Lee. 10 of 15, 153 yards, and his first 2 touchdown passes of his career. Here's Ken Pavelka with Coach Pelini.
Coach, as far as first halves of first games of first seasons, what'd you think?
Well, you know, I thought we were sloppy at times. We were just not as crisp as I want us to be. We got to increase our tempo on the offensive side of the football, and then we blew a coverage on the defensive side on a wheel route, and just not as crisp and clean as I'd like it to be, but not horrible either.
You've emphasized stopping making mistakes that hurt yourselves, other than the personal foul, which took away an interception and then gave them the field goal. And what you just said, what'd you think?
A step in the right direction, but still, once again, still not clean enough, and we just got to play better, and we got a whole second half. We just got to keep working at it and get better as a football team here in the second half.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bo, thanks so much. Ken, thank you. Kelly, your thoughts on the first 30?
I would repeat exactly what Bo Pelini has said right here. I think it was good, but not good enough.
Halftime activity straight ahead. Nebraska leads it 21-3. And the start of the third quarter, Nebraska should get the football because Florida Atlantic won the toss at the start of the game, and they did receive. So Nebraska and Bo Pelini and company will go on offense to start the second half, and that's probably good news. I liked one of the comments that Bo made to Kent Pavelka at halftime. He said one of the things he wanted to do was increase the tempo offensively. Does that mean he's getting more and more confidence in Zack Lee that maybe they're going to pick up the pace a little bit on this?
I think you just want to see kind of a sense of, it's almost rhythm and tempo. You want to have the play called. You want the offensive line to spend as much time at the line of scrimmage with as much time on the play clock as they possibly can. And I think at times they were a little late getting that in, getting up to the line of scrimmage succinctly. And I think that's what he's talking about.
Ken Pavelka, you talked with Howard Schnellenberger walking back on the field. Any thoughts from him?
Basic coach speak, although he said he thinks that there were 6 plays that made the difference in the first half, 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and we got to execute blah, blah, blah. But I got the feeling that he's confident that there were just a handful of plays, a few more than a handful of plays that made the difference in the first half. I think he thinks they can get back in this.
I wish Kent would tell us what he thinks.
Yeah. You've been around. That's why I love going to the Big 12 meetings in July, because you hear the same thing every year. This is going to be Niles Paul, the second half kickoff from about the 7-yard line. Over the 30, the 35, up to the 38-yard line. Nice return by Paul, who last year averaged over 23 yards a kick. The kicker had to come up with a tackle, Russ Cornell.
And watch how these guys right here secure things. When you don't see any white bodies right there, you know that Niles Paul with his speed is going to find some green grass. That's a very good job by that wedge, getting a hat on a hat, not allowing penetration. Here's a different look. Do you want to run down in the face of that? Niles Paul does a very nice job.
And Zack Lee, who had a pretty good first half, the numbers on him, 10 of 15, 153 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Helu up the middle over the 50 into Florida Atlantic territory, making his way to the 48-yard line. Tavoris Hill coming up from the quarterback spot.
And Ron, if we're here to watch that game, what you saw What you see on this play is an attitude, offensive line-wise. These guys right here are going to come up. They're going to continue to push. You can see big number 65, Mike Smith, pushing the defensive down in, clear down inside. And I think that's the attitude that Sean Smith is looking for offensively on the line of scrimmage.
77 yards now rushing for Helu. Zack Lee steps up in the pockets, got some running room. Over the 40, scampers out of bounds, but not before he gets down to the 40 or 36-yard line. And that'll be another first down. Lockley had his sights set on Lee.
And that's where you see Lee's speed. I want to see his instinct in the pocket. You see it right here. It's not necessarily where to go, but when to go. And Zack Lee does a nice job of getting out at the right time. And you can see Lockley, number 45, was a little bit taken off guard by the speed of Zack Lee.
13 yards on the pickup. That's the longest for Lee in his career. And a penalty flag. You know, we saw the progression of Zack Lee so far in this football game. We're listening to the call.
False start. Offense. Number 44. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Mike McNeil. But one of the things the coaching staff did, Kelly, and I thought was very interesting this year, is they really challenged Zack Lee this week and stretched him, they called it.
Well, Zack Lee really didn't have someone challenging him for the spot. Patrick Witt, yeah, he transferred before spring ever started, and so the coaches felt that, in particular Sean Watson felt that they needed to press and challenge Lee every day, and he responded very well to it.
He's got good pedigree again. Father played in the NFL. Roy Helu Jr. What a move! Inside the 15, down to the 13-yard line. There are a bunch of empty shoes on the football field because Helu took Florida Atlantic right out of him.
Sean Watson calls this the hurt you ability, and a running back right here, Helu has the ability to hurt you on plays. A very good job by the guys pulling, and Marcel Jones and Ricky Henry leading up inside, and then Helu, you get him out into space, good things are going to happen.
That run put Helu over 100 yards rushing.
And Ron, the thing that you saw in that last running play with Ricky Henry 74 and 78, Marcel Jones, is the ability to move and outman the defense at the point of attack. When you have an offensive line that can pull and move, and you can get more bodies at the point than the defense has, you obviously have a big advantage.
They've almost doubled their rushing total on this first drive than they had in the first half. Helu again cuts back inside, stretches, touchdown Nebraska. That, my friends, was the Roy Helu show.
Well, if it was his show, let me give you some co-actors in the Jacob Hickman and Rick Henry and Marcel Jones, Derek Meyer, Mike Smith, all of them up front, getting a hat on a hat and just absolutely leading the way. A very good job on the line of scrimmage for Nebraska on that drive.
Henry with the extra point. He remains perfect tonight. What a job, though, by Roy Helu. 14 rushes, 112 yards. Nebraska right now 132 yards rushing. More than they had the entire first half, and they lead it. (28-3). That drive covered 62 yards in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The 7-yard touchdown run by Roy Helu. He accounted for 55 of those 62 yards rushing, Kelly.
And you saw when he gets out in space how special he is. Incredibly quick feet, but he had a lot of help up front as well. One of those, the long run, you saw number 78 and 74 right there. Henry and Jones, they pulled. Very good up front. They're quick. They came from the right side to the left, and then the touchdown. Very little white is showing to Helu right there on that play. Very few guys. They're all covered up. You can see Derek Meyer getting over there. Very good job up front all the way around. Hickman was in on the action. The line of scrimmage for Nebraska dominated on that drive.
And Alec this time kicking with the win. It'll be roll. Tries the right side, takes a shot at the 23-yard line, falls forward to the 25-yard line. Ricky Tenarce is the one who put the boom on roll. Now here you, Howard Schnellenberger, you said as he told Ken Pavelic that, hey, listen, we had 6 plays, 3 on offense, 3 on defense. We think we can get back in this game, and then boom.
Yeah.
You get smacked in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Not good.
Well, I respect Coach Schnellenberger a ton, but I certainly didn't agree with that assessment. You can see that they're outmanned, and it's a matter of time if Nebraska executes that this game will get out of hand.
Morris tries to get the outside, but the speed of Nebraska closes quickly, led by Sean Fisher, the redshirt freshman out of Omaha, Nebraska. This is a guy that played just about 8 plays, 1 game last year. Then he got hurt. And Sean Fisher's a great story. Coaches told me that he's got crazy metabolism. They can't get him to gain weight. He's up to about 230 right now. He's on a 6,500 calorie a day diet.
You would be the Michelin man if you did that.
Oh, man, Pillsbury doughboy. Smith throws it out on the flag. Grant makes the catch, but hit immediately by our man, Sean Fisher again. The pride out of Omaha, Nebraska.
And Sean Fisher is also a very smart guy. 4-0 pre-med. He's off to the right side. You drop in your zone, and when the receiver comes into it, you close it down, and that's how you do it right there. The running back sneaks out to the side. Sean Smith, you drop into coverage and then break on the ball. That's exactly how it looks.
3rd down and 4 to go. Smith rifles the pass for the first down up over the 35 to the 38-yard line. Cortez Gent with the reception. Amukamara on the coverage. That is Gent's 4th reception of the night. The senior out of Chiefland, Florida. He's a Biletnikoff watch list guy.
And Ron, remember the success they had with the hurry-up offense did Florida Atlantic at the end of the first half. They're hurrying up here to try to increase that tempo because they had success at the end of the first half.
Keeping it on the ground. Maybe getting back to the line of scrimmage as Alfred Morse probably picked up about a half a yard, but that is it. You know, when you and I were breaking down film over the last couple of days and talking about it again last night, one of the things that stood out to you, Kelly, was just the speed of Nebraska and when it was going to catch up to Florida Atlantic's offense.
And that's what happens, I think, when Florida Atlantic comes into play a Nebraska-type program. It's this time in the ball game where typically they start to wear out, and we'll see if it happens in this matchup.
Lester Jean in motion. Smith goes deep in the flat. Pass is incomplete, and a flag comes in. It came in from way behind the receiver. Gent was the intended receiver.
I think Amukamara is going to get caught for a little bit too much contact downfield on Gent. This is a matchup that Rusty Smith seems to like. He caught the slant earlier.
Holding defense. Number 21. 10-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Now Prince doesn't like it.
Amukamara gets turned around a little bit, but right there, the right hand as Gent starts to get outside.
Yeah.
And Amukamara just loses him a little bit and grabs with that right hand up on the shoulder pad. Not great technique. When the guy gets around you, have confidence in your recovery speed. Don't grab. Do it with your feet and turn and get into his hip pocket.
Well, that puts the ball on the 49-yard line, 1st and 10, and we've got another procedure penalty against Florida Atlantic. My goodness, that's their 7th penalty tonight.
5-yard penalty.
It's got to be at least 4 procedure penalties on them.
And it was loud in here in the first 3 or 4 of those, but it wasn't loud on that play. It's just a matter of losing focus.
Yeah, they're just
Kevin Miller, the big man, right guard, just absolutely loses focus. But that's another byproduct of a fast defensive line. Sometimes the offensive line gets a little jumpy.
You get a little antsy. The fullback, Willie Rose, maybe picks up 3, and Ndamukong Suh on the stop. He was very active the first part of the football game. He's got 6 tackles so far tonight.
Well, Ron, when the Pellinis came in here, they talked about really having this defensive line get a little bit lighter and quicker. They wanted a fast, aggressive, tough defensive line. They thought the guys were too thick when they first came into this program a year ago. These guys are fast and quick now.
They wanted flexibility. They brought in a new strength and conditioning coach because Bo said, I want my guys flexible. Second down and 13 from the 46-yard line. Smith, a little play action pass, going deep down the middle into double coverage, and that'll be picked off by Matt O'Hanlon. Gets a block, and he is going to be pulled down, and it looked like it would have been a face mask, but I think they just had out of his shoulder pads. But it's interception, Nebraska's football.
Well, this is a problem that Florida Atlantic has by wanting to keep so many guys in to protect. And Nebraska drops into a zone and really are covering with 7. This ball is underthrown. The play action, the throw is just a little bit late. The post route is going to end up going down the middle right here to this guy. And actually, O'Hanlon just had to play center field and catch the pop fly. It really didn't amount to much more than that.
Well, and Dominican Sue gave Rusty Smith a little wallop. But that pass was just floating. Now he is throwing into the wind here. And it's not a bad breeze. It's a pretty good breeze down there. So Nebraska takes over. Here's McNeil. Sidesteps one. Close to a first down as he gets up to the 42-yard line. And the guy we've been calling all night for Florida Atlantic, Malik Eugene. He has been all over the field from Freedom High School in Tampa, Florida.
Well, Lester Jean was the wide receiver that was the intended receiver to Rusty Smith, and on that play, Nebraska did a nice job of playing over the top and underneath. It looked like he was open, but really they had him double coverage over the top and underneath.
They were bookending him there. And
is that what that's called?
That's what I'm
And the ball's floating. That didn't hurt.
No.
If you're a Nebraska fan anyway.
That was good for a first down, so Nebraska 1st and 10 from the 42. Helu, nice move, tries to skip to the outside. Eric McIntosh coming up from that cornerback spot, the senior out of Lehigh High School in Fort Myers, Florida. Here's a guy, McIntosh, number 21. They thought he was going to have an outstanding career. He's been plagued by some injuries.
And Ron, Helu on the evening already has 14 carries. You want to see how he holds up because there aren't many workhorse running backs in college football anymore. There were only, I think, 2 that averaged 25 or more carries in all of college football a year ago in Division I. So Helu, if he's going to be that workhorse, he has to hold up to it.
They use him as a decoy now in a play action. Pass is complete to Holt. He stood up at the 45-yard line, but another first down for Nebraska. Hill was on the coverage. Now, Holt has a couple of catches, but he also has a couple of drops. But when you're 6'4", 220, you got to make that catch, Kelly.
And Holt off the play-action pass. Nebraska has run the ball effectively. You play-action pass. Holt is running the comeback route on the left side. Very, very well thrown. Just get onto the toes of your receiver, bust it off, but that ball is on the money, and Zack Lee has a big-time arm. He throws a pretty ball, but it has some smoke behind it.
3 catches for Holt, 175 yards throwing the football for Lee. Helu gets away, breaks through. He may be gone. Kiss Roy Helu goodbye.
The ball is actually supposed to go to the left side. Zack Lee hands it off and then goes right. That ball is not supposed to follow Zack Lee as the lead blocker, I guarantee it, but that's the good adjustment that Helu's feet allows him to make. The biggest asset that good running backs have is vision, and Helu showed it on that play.
44 yards it covered for Roy Helu. Wow. And Nebraska adds the lead. Helu had 55 yards running the football on the opening drive. He has a 44-yard touchdown now, 152 yards for Roy, and Nebraska leads. Roy Helu's career night is 166 yards running. Tonight he has 152 yards running the football. Kelly, he has been everything we thought he could be.
Yeah, no question about it. He's a slasher. He makes people miss. He has speed. He has good vision. We've seen him run up inside between the tackles very aggressively and authoritatively. He's the real deal, Helu is. My question is, with getting all these carries, is the young man going to hold up? Because remember, Quentin Castile is no longer here. The onus goes on to the back of Roy Helu.
Yeah.
He's going to get a lot of work, Ron, as this season unfolds.
Well, he had 166 versus Colorado last year, and he's kind of picking up because in the final 4 games last season, he had 510 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was best in the Big 12 last season for the final 4 regular season games. McIntosh about 5 yards deep. There's a clip in the back. And that ball's going to come back. That was way too obvious. Matthew May, you got your hand caught in the cookie jar, son. Boy, you don't block somebody in the back in front of 2 officials. Just kind of a point of contention there.
Illegal block in the back during the return, number 10. Half the distance to the goal from the spot of the foul. First down.
Well, Ron Huggins, check that. Ron Huggins is the one. I watch it. It's pretty obvious here. And bing.
We've seen this probably 3 or 4 times on the night where Nebraska, that's exactly where the official is looking. Where the ball is, rest assured, some set of eyes from the officials are on that spot.
Ball is on the 5-yard line. Tough field position for Florida Atlantic. Morris tries to get it up to about the 6-yard line. A lot of players there. Matthew May, Blake Lawrence. We had a bunch of guys there. I think it was Blake Lawrence that led the charge.
Ron, this is one of those little areas that Bo and Carl Pelini want to see as well. When you have a team backed up, you want to keep them there. You don't want to give them 1 first down or give them better punt field as well.
Wide open in the left flat is Gent. And he is going to be pulled down, but not before he gets up to the 31-yard line. I think that's a complete breakdown.
Nebraska just got caught still looking to the sideline for their defensive signal, and Rusty Smith recognized it, goes hurry up, and snaps the ball quickly and throws to an uncovered receiver. Asante gets out there eventually on Gent, but that was well planned by the heady 4-year starter Rusty Smith.
And it's a 1st and 10, so they started on the 5. They're plus 28 on this drive. Straight ahead running by Morris, just a sophomore. In spring, as we mentioned, he started spring practice as the fullback. And then all of a sudden you lose a couple. You lose Jeff Blanchard to an ACL, Willie Floyd to a pectoral muscle, and all of a sudden Alfred Morris has the football in his hands.
Nebraska's defense, Ron, learning how to communicate without the huddle is an area that Bo Pelini believes they're better in. We'll see it right here.
2nd down and 4, 1st down, Florida Atlantic. This time their offensive line doing a nice job opening it up for Alfred Morris.
Last year, time and time again, Nebraska didn't communicate the scheme good enough on the defensive side of the ball when there were no huddle hurry-up situations, and you can see it right there. And Ndamukong Suh gets thrown down inside because he was still waiting to see what he was supposed to do. They have to communicate, get it in, get in position, and play defense.
Smith rolling, throwing deep, has a man, overthrown, intended for Gent.
You know, Ron, to continue on with that theme, Bo and Carl Pelini talked about the communication that has to take place in the no-huddle stuff that they face in the Big 12. This is a little bit better here. Really nothing downfield, once again covered underneath and over the top. But Nebraska has to do a better job of communicating the scheme and getting into position in this type of, against this type of scheme where the offense is concerned.
Well, Rusty Smith under 50% completion rate tonight for just over 100 yards. Running the football has been somewhat effective as Alfred Morris gets close to midfield. That'll be a pickup of about 4 on the play.
Ron, if you keep an eye right now on the line of scrimmage, just take a look at Nebraska's defensive linemen. How are they getting off of blocks right here? Are they punching and penetrating? There is no penetration whatsoever in that look. You can see it. That's a great camera angle to see that Nebraska's offensive or defensive line is not getting penetration like they were early.
Smith into the flat, complete to Jamari Grant, the tight end. And Grant gets him another first down. Eric Haig on the coverage, and Howard Schellenberger said, listen, we can get back into this football game. He's one of the few head coaches you never see put a headset on. I can't think of anybody in college football. Can you? Maybe Bobby Bowden. But
Bobby Bowden does from time to time. You never see one with...
No, Howard doesn't. If I had hair like that, I wouldn't want to mess it up with a headset.
That's right. And I like what he's doing here in this point in time of the game. They saw this at the end of the first half. They've carried it over offensively in the second half. Kind of hurry up, make Nebraska communicate out on the field. Plus, you increase the tempo trying to slow down those big guys up front.
4:48 left in the third quarter. We have a timeout being called. You know, this is year 2 for the Nebraska regime under Bo Pelini. As we mentioned earlier, he said we're in a better position to make a bigger jump this year than we were last year. Well, let's go to the man himself. His thoughts on year number 2.
I think our kids now understand what it means to be good. The focus, the commitment, the accountability, all the things that are necessary within a culture to give yourself an opportunity to win football games. How that equates, I don't know, in one loss. And I don't really pay attention to all that right now, because right now we try and tell our kids to stay focused on the process.
You know, Kelly, one of the things he said is that guys are understanding now that what hard work is, and it's nothing personal with the coaches when they get on there.
That was a great point. And when they first got here, he talked about it was the dread that they felt sometime from these players when being asked to work hard, and they kind of took it personally. But when the dread of working hard started to move into the excitement of an opportunity to get better, they knew they were onto something, and they want to continue doing that. And that's the culture that we talked about. Work hard every day in practice. You play eventually how you practice during the week. And Ndamukong Suh is getting guys fired up down on the sideline. You can see him, but this is where it has to translate, and that's what the coaches are looking for this evening.
Are those arms or somebody's thighs?
Man alive. Your body could disappear behind either of those.
Hey. I'm not going to call him Ducky. He's Sir to me. You know, one of the things Bo Pelini did say, too, he tries not to get too high or too low with the team, and he tries to keep it black and white. And all we see him on the sideline, and he can be emotional.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he is, you know, he doesn't get too high or too low about what's going on.
Keep it black and white and keep it real. Players respond to that.
On the ground on 1st and 10 from the 42, 4.5 left. In the third quarter, Willie Rose gets down to the 40-yard line. Pick up a 2 on the play. Baker Steinkuhler on the stop.
This is Florida Atlantic's version of that zone read, but the difference is Rusty Smith does not want to carry this football. So until he's willing to keep it and become a running back, Nebraska really doesn't have to respect that. There was nobody out there to check Rusty Smith, the quarterback, on that play.
Well, he had 37 rushes last year for minus 82 yards, but probably most of those came via the sack. Ball's loose, kicked around, wide open. Nebraska has come up with a football at the 49-yard line. Redshirt freshman Cameron Meredith.
And Rusty Smith was just totally surprised by this snap. The center, Ryan Wisniewski, snapped it a little bit early. You can see Rusty Smith right there is not even looking for that snap. Although the offensive linemen moved in unison, but they typically go on the snap itself. But Rusty Smith, the quarterback, sure wasn't expecting it. And you can see number 11, Rusty Smith, was not looking to dive into that pile for that loose ball. That's exactly how he dislocated his left shoulder last year.
And that's the second turnover for Florida Atlantic. Rex Burkhead, the true freshman, is back in the lineup at tailback. Roy Helu takes his seat after rushing for 152 yards.
Still first down.
Once again, a pre-snap penalty, and number 74 that time, Ricky Henry, jumped a little bit early, and that's inexcusable in Bo Pelini's eyes. The pre-snap penalties are the worst of all, and as you said, he thinks every penalty is done.
Well, Jacob Hickman's gone out at center. Mike Caputo, the sophomore from Millard North High School in Omaha, has checked in. We've got 3:53 left to play in the third. On 1st and 15, Lee wide open. Gillan. Pass is complete inside the 50-yard line to the 49. Gillian's done a nice job tonight.
He really has, and he's the receiver that's going out, number 11, Gillan, into the flat. Zack Lee, notice where his eyes were initially. He's holding the defenders off in the middle. As they continue to drop, Gillan outflanks the defense, gets to the sideline, and Zack Lee finds him late but on time.
That's his 3rd reception of the ball game. He's still developing, though, as a wide receiver. Lee sprinting out, gets hit as he lets it fly. I think that was a smart play.
Absolutely.
He had no choice on that as Lockley was putting the boom on him.
When Sean Watson is grading film in the morning, that will be a positive for Zack Lee. Nothing there. Sometimes the defense wins and you throw the ball out of bounds and live to play the next down.
You know, we mentioned his dad, Bob Lee, played in the NFL for a dozen years. You know, you think that a lot of guys would pressure their son, and Bob and his wife Janice didn't do that.
Yeah.
They tried to keep him well-rounded and said, in fact, Zack Lee told us that his mom's the one that kept him well-rounded. And also, I think his dad knows when something bad happens, it probably happened to him once in his career. Lee over the middle. That's going to be picked off. First interception of the year for Zack Lee down at the 35-yard line. It looked like Tavoris Hill come up with the interception. He had one last year. This is his first this year. Gillan was the intended receiver.
And actually, this is only half bad. Zack Lee is going to the right guy. He just throws the wrong ball. He doesn't get enough air. You can see the receiver and Gillan is getting behind him right there. If the ball is just a little bit higher, that's the guy you want to go to. But he didn't get it high enough. Sometimes, Ron, it's not the decision, it's the execution of the throw itself, and there's an example of it.
Well, he's still 13 of 20 for 180 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And Florida Atlantic takes over with 3:15 left to play in the 3rd from their own 27. Smith sidearms it. Pass is complete up over the 40 to the 45-yard line. Darian Williams, just a sophomore from North Lauderdale, Florida. They consider this young man the strongest of the tight ends.
Florida Atlantic does a nice job of using the tight ends. A misdirection, you can see right there, Williams coming out, running kind of to the corner, and then he flattens it out a bit. They do a nice job, and who the linebackers are working on, or the tight ends are working on, is that young linebacking core of Nebraska.
Smith likes to go into the flat, and he does it again. Up to the 50-yard line is Grant. Oh, my. That's a collision there, my friends.
Guys that catch the ball and run the ball downfield and are fighting for extra yards against Nebraska are going to learn to get down because Nebraska's defensive line hustles downfield and they're fast enough to get there. You know, Jared Crick and Dominican Sue have already made plays 10 yards downfield and absolutely almost decapitate people.
That looked like it was Baker Steinkuhler on that one. So it sets up a 2nd and 5, ball right at midfield. Final 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the 3rd. Smith, here comes the pressure. And he will throw it to the guys in the red jerseys. Rusty looks like he's saying, give me some time, guys.
We talked about Bo Pelini and Carl Pelini. They want pressure with just the down 4 as the base of their defense. And they've gotten it pretty decently tonight. Rusty Smith is a heady quarterback, so he gets rid of it quickly. But they've had guys there.
I mean, you look at Cameron Meredith, Baker Steinkuhler, Will Compton, Sean Fisher. These guys are redshirt freshmen, and all of them playing very well tonight. Intercepted Nebraska. Prince Amukamara, who had the pass interference earlier, makes up with it with the Oski.
Ron, and I mentioned this earlier that Amukamara has been on Cortez Gint, the go-to receiver from Florida Atlantic, a lot. This is a slant, and Gint just gives up on it. It's thrown inside, and your quarterback has to throw that on time, and he's counting on the receiver crossing the face of the defensive back. And if you're a receiver, you never stop on a slant, and Amukamara takes full advantage of it on that play.
That's his first career interception for the Prince. The junior out of Glendale, Arizona, Apollo High School. Zack Lee still in, got somebody tugging on his shorts, completes it to Niles Paul. Clock continues to run as we go inside of 2 minutes to play in the third. Pickup of about 6 on the play.
Ron, Niles Paul is a guy that Nebraska needs to get figured into the mix a little bit.
Yeah.
He has the speed. He's become a leader on this team. You can see the pressure right there at the end. This is the feistiness of Zack Lee. He comes up kind of fighting a little bit. Thought the defender took a little bit of advantage of him, but I would like to see Niles Paul and Gillan and Holt become that trio that really bring a lot more speed and athleticism to this wide receiver position.
Well, they marked it after a 7-yard gain. Here's Burkhead, the true freshman. He's got the first down over the 40-yard line. Rex Burkhead, 5'11", 200 pounds, from Plano, Texas, a suburb of Dallas.
And remember, Burkhead really has a mirror image in terms of skill set as Helu does, but right there, the yards after contact, get north and south, run downhill, get as much as you can. They have a little wiggle in their step. They're slashers. They can take a short run into a big play very quickly. But Ron, would you expect to see Helu back on this evening?
No.
He has 16 carries. I would think that Sean Watson would like to keep him around that 20-touch mark, and he's about there already.
Zack Lee, 3-step drop, quick look in the middle. Pass is caught by Gillan. Inside the 15, down to the 11. He juggled it. Malik Eugene could not swat it away, and Karinsky comes down with it. That is his 4th catch of the evening.
Well, in the shell coverage that Florida Atlantic runs, Zack Lee had to wait for Gillan to get into the next wind zone.
Well, penalty against the Owls, but that, of course, will be declined.
It was pass interference, but it really didn't make any difference. But watch out, Zack Lee. Keep an eye on him. There's a hesitation right there. He's waiting for Gillan to get into the next open window to come open, and that's what happened. Very good throw. Eventually a nice catch. Gillan dropped it one earlier, but he hung on to that one.
He had 2 catches last year. He's got 4 tonight.
Prior to the snap, offside, defense, number 93, 5-yard penalty, still first.
9 penalties now against Florida Atlantic. Jarvis Givens is the man who jumped, the sophomore out of Miami, Florida. So it sets down up a 1st and 5 from the 8. So they can get a first down without a touchdown. Burkhead looking for his first collegiate touchdown, and he's got it. There's a late penalty flag on the play, but Rex Burkhead goes 8 yards for his first touchdown, and is a Nebraska Cornhusker. That was the last play of the third quarter, too.
The touchdown is good. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. At the end of the third quarter, we will have a try from here. We will switch it and then start the fourth quarter.
We were seeing that replay as the official was still talking, but number 62 is Andy Christensen, that has been fighting for that starting spot or playing time at that right guard position, doing a nice job of leading Burkhead into the end zone. 21
points in the first half for Nebraska, and if Henry connects on this one, which he does, 21 points in the third quarter. Roy Helu had a big third quarter, including a 44-yard touchdown run, but his replacement, Rex Burkhead, with an 8-yard TD. We head to the final 15 minutes. Nebraska leads it 42-3. 42-3 as we head to the final stanza. Rex Burkhead, just a true freshman, getting his first touchdown. Let's take a look at it again. Good effort by the young man.
A good job up front as well. You can see Andy Christensen, 6'2", coming from his 62, coming from his left guard position and stepping up inside The offensive line of scrimmage has been controlled by Nebraska in this second half on both sides of the ball. Good things happen when the guys up front play well, and Nebraska's playing very well right now.
Let's check in with Kent Pavelka. Kent.
Ron, that left guard position's an interesting story. You mentioned Andy Christensen. He actually committed when Frank Solich was still the head coach at the University of Nebraska, playing in his 6th season here. This is the 6th season of eligibility, a very unusual story there. But Derek Myers has been playing most of the snaps at left guard, playing for Keith Williams, who's injured and has not seen a snip tonight. Derek Myers is a great story. He's from a little old town called Campbell, Nebraska. Can't be 200-300 people there. He went to Kansas State on a scholarship, got down there, spent a few years, decided, I don't like it here. I grew up in Nebraska. I want to be a Cornhusker. He's playing out here. He's played almost every snap tonight, save for a couple for Christensen. And it's got to be a dream come true for him tonight in this home opener for 2009.
Sounds like somebody else I know, Kelly. You got to come back to Nebraska after your playing career.
No kidding.
It's just like you.
My hometown had 1,200 in it, though. His only had 3.
Is that including your cattle?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a thought. Well, Nebraska penalized on the kick. This is something in a Big 12 game you cannot have happen, because when you're kicking off the 15-yard line, this will be rolled, and it's rolling around. Oh, my. Sit down, Mr. Roll, at the 17-yard line.
Well, Ron, those are the things that Bo Pelini doesn't tolerate. And whoever taunted, we couldn't hear the official say the number, but rest assured he's going to get an earful from head coach Bo Pelini. You're right. It doesn't matter tonight.
No.
But in the heat of a contest in the Big 12, when you're fighting for a championship, it's those little things that make a huge difference.
Okay, let's look at it from Florida Atlantic standpoint now. 42-3. You're not going to make up that unless a miracle. You've got to get something positive out of this. Fumble, ball is loose, and they recover it, but they're going to lose a couple of yards on the play. Ricky Tenarce is the one who punched at the ball, and it had to come up with Chris Bonner getting the loose rock.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the positive that you're talking about,
No.
Ron. Florida Atlantic is just going to continue to do what they do. And you can see the big pop, I think, by Anthony West on that play. Or actually, it was Tenarce, but Florida Atlantic does what they do, right? And they're going to continue to do that the rest of this game, and they call it advanced training. You continue, and then you get into the Sun Belt Conference, and you're more prepared to play at that level.
Chris Bonner comes up with a reception. Now, last year, they were one of the favorites for the Sun Belt Conference, but they started out 1-5. As we look at this one more time, pretty good catch. Bonner, an outstanding receiver, has to use the entire 6'3" frame for the senior from Tampa. But they started out 1-5, and they lost games including Texas. They got whacked, Michigan State and Minnesota. But they finished 6-1 down the stretch. And to show you how good Howard Schnellenberger is, even after the 1-5 start, they go to a bowl game and they win a bowl game. On the ground, Morris up the middle, one man to beat, and they close quickly, but not before he gets to the 48-yard line. Pickup of 23 on the play. Nice run by Alfred Morris.
Florida Atlantic had a great play called. You can see Sean Smith 42 and Compton 51. The linebackers were coming. They get kind of cut outside and to the other side away from the run, and they gash them with Morris right up the middle. Right call, right time. Poor execution if you're Nebraska up front.
80 yards rushing for Morris, 198 yards passing, 93 rushing for Florida Atlantic tonight. Smith looks, throws, nice pass caught by Grant. And that'll be another first down. Ricky Tenarce on the coverage. At times, this Florida Atlantic offense looks like it will put points on the board, Kelly.
And I think they will when they get back to the Sun Belt Conference. I don't know that they're going to do much tonight, but we saw that last year watching the Texas tape in the opening game. This offense moved the football, but they just couldn't finish things. Just like this afternoon, this evening, they couldn't finish things, and we'll see if they can do it on this drive.
1st and 10 from the 37, about 7 minutes gone by here in the 4th. Morris. You know, earlier in the game, I asked you about Bernie Kosar and the Rusty Smith comparison.
Yeah, and you can see they're very similar size games right now. Rusty Smith has played a ton. The yards, Rusty Smith has a lot more yards, but what I like is I think they compare very well mentally, the way that they approach reading defenses, and also their throwing motion, which we already broke down. Very Bertie Kosar-like is Rusty Smith from the physical standpoint.
2nd down and 5 from the 32. Smith, nice read, should have been caught. Off the hands of Grant.
When Bo Pelini mentioned to Kennedy going into the locker room at halftime, dropping coverages, this is a drop coverage. Nebraska is bringing their linebackers, but you don't leave the tight end on the in-man on the line of scrimmage, Jamari Grant, totally free. Somebody is responsible for that receiver.
Well, you were talking about the young linebackers who are going to have to learn during his first couple games for Nebraska. 3rd down and 5 from the 32. 4 seconds to snap it. Smith passes tipped at the line of scrimmage, incomplete. And Ndamukong Suh got the big hand on it. Now last year, you remember early in the season, he had the interception for a touchdown.
And Ndamukong Suh does not get a very good pass rush, so he's watching the eyes of the quarterback and getting his hands up. A good job of tipping the ball. But Nebraska has to do a very good job of reading the routes. All of their coverages in linebacker and secondary are all about route reading. Your coverage is based on the break of the receiver. It's a lot to learn.
On 4th down, incomplete. Nebraska will take over. Larry Asante with the hit, and Jamari Grant is still down, and he is slow to get up. And he gets up with a little hitch. Timeout, 12:19 left to play in the ball game. The game is in. Boy, Helu Jr., what a night tonight running the football. 16 carries, 152 yards, 3 touchdowns. And he also caught a pass for 3 yards. And, of course, the other star of the game is Zack Lee, quarterback. First collegiate start, 12 of 17 tonight.
He's looked very comfortable, really, from the opening part of this game. He's thrown the ball accurately. He's generally found the right guy to throw to. In most cases, I believe he has. He's taken a little pressure. He's gotten rid of it at the right time. And when nothing is downfield, he's tucked it a few times. He's a very accurate passer, and he has a strong arm. You can see right here, he moves with his feet just enough, keeps his head down the field. I think Zack Lee has had an impeccable first time out as the new starting quarterback of Nebraska football.
Well, he's being replaced now by the true freshman Cody Green out of Dayton, Texas. And Burkhead and Green in the backfield. Burkhead with a touchdown. He gets up over the 35 to the 38-yard line. But Cody Green, he is a heralded freshman to say the least. 6'4", 220 pounds, number 17. Yeah. He is a true dual threat at that quarterback spot. And we were wondering,
yeah,
keep the guy redshirt, or do you let him play?
I don't think you can. I mean, if you consider it, somewhere in this season, for at least a time, and Lord willing, not very long if you're Nebraska, Cody Green is going to have to play real football.
Yeah.
And so get him in games like this in the first maybe 2 out of the 3 or 3 out of the 4 weeks and let him get started. You have to start somewhere.
And Ben Cotton, a redshirt freshman, so a true freshman to a redshirt freshman. Green's first pass is a completion.
And Ron, the big thing with Cody Green is he graduated high school early so he could participate in spring ball. That makes a huge difference for true freshmen being able to play early, even at the quarterback position in Division I football. That's something that changed dramatically since the days that I played.
Yeah.
You were behind, and it took you a good year to get ramped up. Now, if you have a spring ball under your belt along with summer camp, you're good to go.
That was Ben Cotton's first reception as a collegiate. Pass is tipped. Incomplete, but we saw a little bit of the arm strength of Green, who lost the 3x5s.
Yeah, we saw a little of the arm strength. We saw even less of the finesse on this pass. It's something that young quarterbacks have to learn, especially when you're throwing the ball underneath your receivers. You have to put the ball on them with the right smoke behind it. Good decision, just wrong type of throw to Niles Paul underneath.
And he also lost all of his plays out of his arm.
That's not good.
Look at him. He's going, now, Coach, is this page 1 or page 2? Strap him in there, big guy.
Better now than
really.
when the Big 12 gets rolling.
Yeah. Alex Henry will kick it away, but the play clock goes down to 0.
Prior to the snap, delay game, offense, number 90, 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
And Alex will back it up. You know, it's interesting that he's punting. Is it just going to be a matter of time before we realize, does it have any effect on his field goal kicking?
Yeah, I think so. And you would think not. He's excited about being a bigger part of what's going on in this team. So you would think he can handle it because he has a lot of experience anyway.
Now that ball looked like it was tipped. It looked like maybe it was tipped, but it looked like it was tipped. So it's a short kick. Florida Atlantic has good field position, but they only have 10:39 to work. Beautiful night for football in Lincoln, Nebraska. But then again, any day that ends in Y is a beautiful night for football in Lincoln, Nebraska. 42-3, 10:39. Oklahoma, right now, there's about 10 minutes and 32 seconds left. Oklahoma leads it. Now it's 13-7 over BYU. But the big story is right there, Kelly. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's the right shoulder. Sprained AC joint is the report coming out of the game right now. But most teams in the country, even if you're Oklahoma, are one hit to your starting quarterback away from being a much different team.
Yeah.
And we'll see how Oklahoma responds. And if it's, 2 or 3 weeks that Sam is out, I think that's yet to be known.
Now, don't forget they play Texas on October the 17th in Dallas. So I'm not a mathematician, but it seems like they have plenty of time to him to get healed before that game.
But the other thing in that game, how about BYU playing a little defense against Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Had the most prolific scoring year in college football history last year, did the Oklahoma Sooners, and they've only gotten 10 on the board, even with their backup quarterback.
Now Florida Atlantic, 2nd down and 7 from the 49-yard line. This time Ndamukong Suh says, "You're not going anywhere."
You still have a lot of defensive starters out there led by Ndamukong Suh. Jared Crick, you can see down there as well. Barry Turner, Pierre Allen. Those young guys at the linebacker position are getting a good look as well. They need reps. Those young linebackers just need to see more game action, and their feet will continue to speed up as their mind begins to decipher what they're seeing.
3rd down and 8. Jeff Van Kempen at quarterback. His pass is knocked away by Ricky Tenars. Pass was intended for Avery Holly, the junior out of Pompano Beach, Florida. And Florida Atlantic will be forced to kick it away.
Ron, we've seen this a few different times. Nebraska gets a little pressure, but not much. But remember, Florida Atlantic is a lot of times what's called max protecting. They're keeping 7, sometimes 8 guys in to protect, which means you only have 2, sometimes 3 receivers. Nebraska has done a decent job downfield, covering a lot of times with only 2 or 3 speed receivers into the route.
And even a new punter now for Florida Atlantic, and he's not even on our roster. Burkhead back at the 13-yard line. He's going to let it go over his head into the end zone. Nebraska will take over 1st and 10 from their 20. 9:18 to play in this ball game. Nebraska taking control here in the 3rd quarter. Now you look at the schedule. 4 of the first 5 games are at home, but then you look at 3 of the last 5 are away in 2009. But when I look at the schedule, first thing that stands out is the Huskers have to play on the road against Missouri to be one of them, one of their big foes. First next week, Arkansas State. That will be on pay-per-view.
And I think going at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, one of the most difficult places to play in all the land. And I think Nebraska will be well prepared after 2 games to go in there and have a good showing, and will prepare them for their run. But you're right. They get a break in the South by only having Oklahoma and Texas Tech, really out of the big 3. But they have to play all the true contenders on the road, and 2 of them right here in Kansas and Colorado, I think, are going to be contenders. They have to go on the road to Missouri as well.
Kent, what do you think?
Well, I just want to know if Nebraska goes on and beats Arkansas State next week and then Louisiana Lafayette, do they get the Sun Belt North trophy?
They get the automatic bowl, the Motor City Bowl. So they already have that after 3 games.
Sun Belt North, Sun Belt South.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I think that'd be perfect for them because they are playing 3 Sun Belt opponents this year.
But Ron, when you look at a schedule for Nebraska or any Big 12 North team, one of the things that people still do is they say, okay, first of all, who does that North team have to play in the South? And if you don't have to play a couple of the, Oklahoma, Texas, or Oklahoma State this year, then you have a step up from the other teams. That's why I give Nebraska the slight edge over Kansas, because Kansas has to play those Big 12 South teams.
Cody Green, his second pass complete up to the 35-yard line to Chris Brooks. Brooks, the senior out of Hazelwood East High School in St. Louis, Missouri. 3 career receptions. That is number 4. I like this Cody Green. He's got a wing on him, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as he gets more experience, and you have Zack Lee that, has this year and one more year to play. Nebraska, I think, is going to be in very good hands at that quarterback position, but Cody Green, 6'4", 220. I heard actually the comparison made to Vince Young sometime since we've been here in Lincoln.
Oh my, there's the speed, tiptoeing down the sideline. Can he do it? Cuts back inside the 20, down to the 16-yard line. Vince Young, you nailed it.
Did someone just say Vince Young? And you flash back to Texas, and let's not get ahead of ourselves, but this is what this young man brings. He's 6'4", 220, so he's hard to bring down anyway, but when they're hard to bring down and can still run away from you, that's special, and that's what they think they have in Cody Green.
Look at that, and he just breaks the tackle, that upper body strength. Here's a guy that had 800 yards rushing. But that was in 6 playoff games, friends. That wasn't during the regular season.
And what Sean Watson said to us yesterday is Cody Green is what he calls a get-it guy. He just gets what they're doing. He was in here in the spring. He's now had an entire summer camp behind him, and he just gets it. He gets the scheme, and he applies it.
How about that? Joe Gans, last year's quarterback. He record-setting quarterback for 2 years.
And what you need to see over the long haul is Zack Lee and Cody Green have the instincts and the management ability in Sean Watson's offense that Joe Gans did.
Yeah.
That was Joe Gans' #1 strength. Zack Lee started great tonight. He has to continue moving forward, and now we're seeing a little bit more out of Cody Green where that's concerned.
And I also like it because I like competition. You want to have somebody behind you that you have to get better every day. And I think both Pelini and Sean Watson both like that. What a threat, though. Burkhead gets tackled by the ankles, leans forward, maybe picking up a yard on the play. Austin Jensen out of Bradenton, Florida on the stop.
Ron, when you're around this team this year compared to last year, the thing that you see immediately is how the talent has already been upgraded at Nebraska. In 1 year with Bo Pelini and his staff recruiting, and some of these redshirt freshmen showing up again.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 92. Half the distance to the goal from the other run, automatic touchdown.
Kevin Surreal on that.
Yeah, you make a good point about the talent upgrade, and a lot of it has to do with those redshirt freshmen. He redshirted all but 2 of them last year, and a lot of them could have helped him last season, but he elected instead to have them help him in years 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Excellent point. Well, let's talk more about that and kind of break down this roster as we go forward.
Here's Burkhead, bounces out to the left side, keeps his balance by putting the right hand down. He's inside the 5, down to the 3. Michael Lockley trips him up. 6 senior starters on this team, 2 on offense.
Well, what Kent was just talking about, it's a different plan that Bo Pelini has than, say, a Callahan had. Last year, Bo Pelini started really the underpinning depth of this program by redshirting everyone basically that could, except a couple of guys that Kent talked about. And right now you have 80 out of the 142 players being freshmen or redshirt freshmen on this Nebraska football team.
And Burkhead looking for his second score of the night. He's close, but the officials are going to say he's short.
Kent, was that not a difference of opinion or of approach that Callahan took when he was here?
Yeah, I mean, Callahan, if you'll recall, really went the JUCO route at one point, too, which was totally different than what we're talking about. But you look at who started tonight. 2 of the 3 linebackers that started are redshirt freshmen. The other a true sophomore. And then you throw in the true freshmen who were difference makers tonight. Cody Green under center right now. And then Burkhead at running back. And there he is.
And tries to get it in, but the officials are going to say no again.
But Ron, when you can add to your depth of your program and at the same time get more talented with that depth, that's how you build a program that survives one year after the next, and you become one of those elite teams once again that Nebraska obviously is wanting to do. 4th down, less than a yard to go.
Burkhead is in the I formation. 3 tight ends. 4 make it tight ends. The keeper in for the touchdown. Cody Green, his first collegiate TD. Green with an outstanding run that set up the touchdown. Burkhead has a touchdown tonight. We are seeing the future of Nebraska.
And a play that we haven't seen really. It's more of kind of the option, more of the speed option. Quick outside, lead fullback. You have a guy in a running back and pitch relationship. A good job that close to the goal line. If you see Green, you tuck it up inside like Cody Green did on that play.
The extra point is perfect. 6 minutes and 3 seconds left to play in the opening game. Cody Green's 1-yard touchdown run has given Nebraska a 49-3 lead.
You know, it was amazing on that play. It looked somewhat odd to begin with. When Cody Green tucked it up inside and stepped into the end zone and the defender from Florida Atlantic came up to tackle him, it was like tackling a tight end right here. 6'4", 220, good decision. You have enough to get it in the end zone, but then all of a sudden you realize this is a quarterback, but it's like tackling a tight end, but he runs like a wide receiver. That's what Nebraska got in Cody Green, and you're going to see that. Sean Watson is going to be very precise at where Cody Green gets in the action, because remember, Zack Lee still needs a lot of reps. But Cody Green is going to play an integral part in this program probably sooner than later.
Yes. Want to remind Husker fans, catch Big 12 football on Fox Sports Midwest all season long. We televise 18 games in HD, weekly preview shows, classics, replays, and more. Also, don't forget to catch the Bo Pelini Show. That comes on Tuesdays. Big 12 football all season long on Fox Sports Midwest. And a quick update. Bo Pelini's former team, the Oklahoma Sooners, now trail BYU 14-13 with just over 3 minutes to play. Once again, the Sooners playing without Heisman Trophy winner Sam Bradford, out for probably 3 weeks, shoulder. How big would that be? BYU comes in and knocks off what some people think could win the national championship, Oklahoma. That's just kind of, after the great day the Big 12 has had, this is would be a major blow.
Really devastating. And on the other hand, the Mountain West, who believes that they were shut out of a national championship title opportunity last year with Utah running the table, and they go in and make a statement like that. You're exactly right. What's been a great day for the Big 12 is about ready to take a blow if Oklahoma doesn't make something happen.
Let me tell you, the Mountain West is a better conference than the Big East this year, hands down. Kickoff coverage just a little bit shaky on that one as Tavius Polo brings it up over the 25-yard line, and Florida Atlantic takes over inside of 6 minutes to play in the contest.
All right, big boy, give me a report card. Nebraska Cornhuskers, what do you think? What'd you see here today?
See, I've been Pelini-ized.
Yeah.
I don't get too high or too low, because last year I thought they were better after the first game than I really thought they were, and I think they showed it. I'd give them a B- tonight. I think there were some things they showed. I think Roy Helu showed me a lot tonight. I think at times their young linebackers weren't as crisp as I think you need to be when you play the likes of the Colt McCoys or the the Texas Techs.
Yeah, we hope that Coach Schnellenberger gets off the,
took a hit. He's
the
tough.
field right there.
75 years young, Howard Schnellenberger. And, you know, talking to the people, Florida Atlantic, the coaches and the sports information staff, they said this guy's got a bounce in his step and has had it.
Coach, you have to have your head on a swivel right here.
Whoa.
Couldn't quite back out of the way fast enough.
I'll tell you what, that one assistant who didn't stop him right there.
Yeah.
You're walking home, guy. You got here in the head.
Get your hind end out in front of the big man and protect him for crying out loud.
That guy's pulling the ripcord on a parachute. He's getting out of there. Protect your coach. What if that guy has a job after tonight?
He might after tonight, but when the film's watched tomorrow, he probably won't.
He's probably saying, where were you guys?
But I think you're right. I think your assessment is a good one. I mean, Bo Pelini is striving for perfection. That's the bottom line. And some people take that the wrong way and see him kind of gruff and he's never satisfied. But when you're trying to get this program back to its elite status, which he was hired to do, that's the way you have to approach things. Bo Pelini, I guarantee you, is the perfect guy at the perfect time for this program, and he runs it the right way. You don't take shortcuts. You have to make tough decisions at times, but in the end, he has a vision and he's carrying it out block by block.
Well, I remember Bud Wilkinson, the late Bud Wilkinson, great coach at Oklahoma, telling me years and years ago when I was just getting in the business, he said, young man, complacency is the enemy of excellence.
Yeah.
And I don't think Bo's going to allow this team to become complacent. Well, Van Camp puts it up in the air, pass is incomplete, and that, oh my. Now that's probably going to be a penalty because anything above the shoulders now, actually above the mid-chest up, is going to be considered a penalty. They're trying to protect the player.
Yeah, Eric Martin was the linebacker breaking on this pass, and it was maybe a little bit too late.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 26, helmet-to-helmet contact. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Well, they said it was. They said it. No, they said it was helmet-to-helmet contact, and it didn't look like helmet-to-helmet.
I didn't see the helmet hit the helmet, but
I didn't either.
It actually looked like form tackling. You get the helmet across the bow, meaning out in front of the receiver in this case, and that was absolutely, I think, a poor call.
No, it didn't look like helmet-to-helmet.
I didn't see it, but they're going to err. Officials are going to err on the side of protecting the player, and I think they were trying to do that on that play.
Avery Holly on a little reverse. Nebraska does not fall for it. Gomes on the stop.
Well, we haven't even talked about Eric Martin much. He's another one of those, he's a true freshman at that linebacking position. And what we see at the linebacking position, I think the problem they're going to have early in this year is in pass coverage.
Right.
Because what the Pellinis do defensively in pass coverage is everything is conceptual, and they have to read the route. You just don't drop to a zone or have a guy man-to-man. It's based on what the receivers do, how they release and all those things. It's the last thing to come along in understanding this Bo Pelini defense.
Navani roll, not much going on. He gets close to the first down, had to get down to the 34-yard line. They're going to mark it right on the 35. That'll bring up a third down at about 1. We're inside of 3.5 minutes. Carl Pelini's defense tonight has given up over 335 yards, 337 to be exact. 117 rushing, 220 passing.
Carl said yesterday the thing that he was a little anxious about is his young guys in that second level linebacking core reading routes and playing the coverage. Physically, he said they'll be fine. They're fast, they're athletic, but it's that coverage that needs to be sewn up.
Somebody lost a helmet, comes flying out of the pack. Roll on the carry. Looks like Jordan Sessa. Make sure the head's not still in there.
I think he's good.
He is. 3:03 left in that Oklahoma game. They have the football, and they're trailing BYU 14-13, by the way.
And if you're at home wondering why Florida Atlantic wants to play a game like this, there are 3 reasons that Coach Schnellenberger gave us. It's to get experience. They get better by seeing better competition. They go to their conference, and then they can compete better. And then he said, plain and simple, it's a payday. It helps us fund things that our program typically doesn't have access to, and all those things are very legitimate.
Holly on the reception. In fact, he said when he decided to take this program and build it from scratch. He said, we didn't even have a nail to hang anything on.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know, I remember when Jim Levitt started South Florida and visiting Coach Levitt in his trailer. I don't think Coach Schellenberger even had a trailer.
They have a new stadium on the way that they think will be completed like in 2011, and he wants to stay around to see that. But Florida Atlantic does some nice things. They're in a great geographical location to recruit, I'll tell you that.
Pass is complete to Gene.
This is where the young guys on the defense need to be consistent at their technique as well. Van Camp getting the ball out quickly, semi-roll. Good job by Gene hauling that one in. Decent coverage by Denard, and that's another one of those guys in the defensive secondary that throughout the year, Denard is going to have to be counted on to get some playing time, and this is where you have to get good, sound fundamentals down.
On the running play, nothing doing on second down and about 5. You know, you talked about being in a great backyard. Only 6 players on the entire Florida Atlantic roster are from outside of Florida.
Yeah.
Not too deep. We're talking about the entire roster.
Yeah, and everybody throughout the country goes into Florida to recruit. Florida and Texas probably are the 2 biggest recruiting beds, hottest recruiting beds in all the country. But, you know, the recruiting budget for Florida Atlantic basically is a tank of gas from one side of the state to the other at the most.
Xavier Stinson, the intended receiver. Jeff Van Camp's pass off his hands. Final 63 seconds. Now, if you're Nebraska, and I remember this, I think it was one of the first 3 pay-per-view games we did last year, somebody scored late in the game. I'm not sure if it was San Jose State or Western Michigan and Bill Cubitt's squad, or I'm not exactly sure, but somebody scored late in the game, and it was like death to Nebraska. They just felt like, oh my goodness, you know, what did we do?
Well, that's
New Mexico State.
That's what Bo Pelini preaches, and it has to go clear down to the last guy on the roster or on the depth chart. Anyone who's getting playing time, they expect the same thing from those guys as they do the first guys out on the field.
Avery Holly tried to get a jump on the defense by taking off. The problem is the ball is not snapped.
False start, offense, number 1, 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
You know, Ron, I guarantee you, we watch Hawley get a jump start.
Watch this. He's 10 yards down before they call it.
Yeah, they frown on that in this game before the ball snap. But rest assured, when they watch this game film, the guys out on the field right now getting these last few seconds will be graded and coached just as hard as the first line that was in there to begin with.
4th down and 10, balls on the 22-yard line. Van Camp looking, crosses the line of scrimmage. He's got to go down, and he does. Eric Martin, the true freshman that Kelly was talking about just a few minutes ago, 6'2", 215 pounds, showing us his guns.
And that's what you've seen flashes of tonight, is the speed that Nebraska now has at the linebacker position. Eric Martin is mirroring the quarterback, and then he just simply runs him down.
Yeah.
Nebraska hasn't done that in the last few years. There was maybe a guy open, but by that time, Van Camp has already tucked it and become a ball carrier.
Nice job by Blake Lawrence putting pressure on him. Now to Travis Washington. He's going to get his shot at quarterback, the junior out of Bradenton, Florida. As some of the guys who toil so hard as redshirt or walk-ons and guys that are just trying to live a dream playing for Nebraska, they're going to get at least 1, possibly 2 plays in. But Travis Washington, 6'3", 225, Bayshore High School. Good look at him. Currently moving into the number 3 spot as far as quarterback. Marcus Mendoza, number 32, also in the backfield. Here's a guy that last year the coaches were very high on when we were in here. They loved his speed, but they had to move him to wide receiver. Then they moved him back to running back after Quentin Castile was dismissed from the team.
And I think that will just help him now that he's back at running back. He understands the running back position, get a feel for how to run routes as a wide receiver, and then come back to the running back position.
This time Washington keeps it, tries to get to the edge, gets up to the 25 to the 27-yard line, and that's going to do it, my friends. 483 total yards for Bo Pelini's offense. They blew it open in the third quarter with 21 points. The final, Nebraska 49, Florida Atlantic University 3. We'll be back to wrap things up from Lincoln, Nebraska right after this.